Hello, welcome to the Tyranny of the Black Hand recap episode, where we'll be discussing the story that has happened so far, and... Fuck, I've just...
Nice, there's the intro. There's the intro.
There's the
There's
intro.
the intro. There we
Yeah.
go. This is it.
So, yeah, we're as we have here, we have our lovely Kian with us here, as
Hello.
well as
Hi.
we call him HC, but to everyone else is Brian.
Hi.
We're going to be going through everything that you need to know prior to all the way up to now.
Well, mostly everything from what we can remember.
Yeah,
It's
from what we
been
can
a while.
It's been a hot minute.
It's been.
We're going to talk about each individual arcs, which we're going to have 11 in total. Yes, I know that seems quite a bit and quite a lot, but we have had pretty much almost 4 years worth of doing this campaign before we started recording. So we might have missed out a few details because it has been so long, and trying to keep all the notes and all the records of everything and going back through everything has been a bit of a task. So do bear with us if there's something that does come up in future episodes that we do release that might have a detail that isn't in this recap. It will be explained, so do not worry. But we have gone back and tried to pick out everything that we possibly could. But we're also going to be talking about not just the arc itself, but also the main prominent story moments that we're going to have within each arc. Also our favorite moments that we're going to have between each of us, the three of us that are here today. And any sort of tangents and crazy ideas that we've sort of had along the way. So, without further ado, we'll get started. So the first arc is called The First Encounter. Before we started the campaign as a whole, we had each of the players have a session 0, which introduced them to the world and tied them all to a location to be able to start, which that location was called Brayan. And Brayan was, well, still is, a town that is just located just outside a city called Crake, which Crake is a huge, humongous city, mostly to humans, with a high steampunk-esque sort of theme. But besides the point, within Brayan was housed an event, which this event was a giant festival that was holding a festival that would promote come on guys, help me out here. What did it promote?
There was everything there. It was flipping.
It was
Yeah.
There was a
It
gun
whole
shop.
kind of festival.
Colt's gun shop.
There was a
there.
gun shop. Yeah.
yeah, there was a
Oh,
gun shop. Yeah. So it was amazing. It was
Rob's
promoting.
stand.
It was promoting all sort of inventions and creations across Malin itself, which is the continent
Yeah.
which it resides in. So
I
there
always
was
pictured it as like
various
a,
different characters.
Yeah, I always picture it as like a harvest festival sort of dealio where everyone's like,
Yeah.
Basically.
like look
There's
at what
also
I've
the,
done.
Yeah. There's
Science
also the
for.
main event, which was the performance. By-
Oh yeah. So we'll move on. So after
yeah.
getting ahead of ourselves. So basically, as they all met, they all came together within this event. They all sort of stumbled upon each other by arriving at on a carriage, and at the same time. Very coincidental. So without them really not really knowing each other and not really knowing their surroundings, they all sort of banded together to go around this festival and meet various characters, which you first met within this event. This whole entire festival was Corvic, which he was still is a big staple mark within the story, which we'll get to later on down the road. But he is a dwarf that is heavily into his inventions. He's created complete wonders that have spanned across the whole entire of Anaralia. But we'll get more into his sort of story as we go along. But that is where they first met him. They also met Colt, which he is the first gunsmith of his age. He's done fabulous work, and he reoccurs back in the story later on. But towards the night, there was a show which Landon, which is Brian's character, was part of a circus that was banded and travelled around, but they were playing a bit of a show towards the end of the evening, which he invited sort of, in air quotes, at the time, friends or acquaintances that he just met. You can talk a little bit about that, because that was more your sort of front.
True.
Well, I remember it being. We kind of started, and honestly, I don't even think we put a name to the group either.
No, I don't think you
Circus
actually
group.
did. I don't think you had.
We
no, you
did
didn't
not.
have a name.
This was, I believe, this was like, one of those like just out of the blue moments.
Yeah, I think
While
it
I
was.
was creating my
Yeah, it
character.
definitely was.
It's like, you know what? He got himself into a certain. He got himself into a circus group, and he's like helping them out. You know that whole shit, and that's how I got here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had quite a few characters, which don't worry about them too much. They don't really appear anymore. We got Tobias
That's true.
Dunn, which was the ringmaster.
Oh, you actually have
yeah,
the
the ringmaster.
Oh
I have
my!
I have a few names. Yeah.
Saying that, I have my session 1 notes right in front of me.
Oh wow.
There's a reason me and HC are here. It's because we're the ones who write everything down, as you'll find out
Yeah.
in the main campaign.
You'll
Yeah.
find that out.
Especially.
Also, you'll find out that Kian does way better notes than me and more concise than me. Just saying.
Also
Yes.
true. Also true.
True. We had Hugh Doob, the juggler.
Oh my god, the juggler.
Adamir, I think his name is just Adamir, who was a sword swallower.
Oh
Brady, the knife thrower. Beatrice, the puppeteer. And let me see. There's a guy named Jarvis, which was for the third act, which I believe he didn't actually come up or he pulled through. I don't remember that part actually.
Wasn't that during the attack that happened? Wasn't his act like?
Was that?
Was that towards the end?
I can't remember. All
I
can
can't
remember is
fully
the-
remember.
Is the story that was acted out, or
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a story that was acted out.
I remember looking into that way too detailed. I've got it
Yeah.
wrote down. The husband and a wife. The wife had an affair, and then the husband got revenge, and then there was a breaking of a family shield, and then a curse. And I was like, dude, this has got to be something for like the end final BBEG, and they planned it, and it absolutely means fuck all now. 79 episodes in.
Yeah,
was
79
really
sessions
spur
and
of
it
the
means
moment
nothing. But anyway, so there was a group of the banded together, which Landon was a part of for the brief time. But towards their sort of show that they had in this giant teepee within the festival at the end of the night, there was a werewolf attack that happened. Sort of a werewolf bursting through the tent itself, and which the players were quick to react and deal with the situation. which
Well,
wasn't
Keller
to no, Keller wasn't though.
early combat for Keller was interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, we will do.
Yeah, very interesting.
But after that, the mayor, who was attending, the mayor of Craig, who was also attending the festival and the show, he asked the sort of bandit of ragtags and this group together to ask them to sort of, go out and sort these attacks that have been happening more recently around the local area, which they did.
Yeah. Gave us our sort of like sense of purpose to stay together.
Yeah.
Which was
all
good.
for that money.
True.
Yeah,
Keller
he
was
did
very
promise
good
you
on
money, which you've only recently just got.
Which
We only did
like
recently get.
45 seconds. Yeah, we only got that recently, but
Yeah.
that was funny. We completely forgot about that. Well, as you'll find out soon, a lot happened that we couldn't claim
A
money.
lot happens.
A lot happened.
Yeah, a lot happens.
So yeah, that was
bits.
that was pretty much it. I mean, like the
Yeah,
attack
I think that
happened, and
was-
then he gave us our quest, which leads us into the next arc. But yeah, I mean, it was
Definitely one character on note that for sure comes up again is Derek the Minotaur.
Derek.
Rob's
Derek.
compatriot. Yeah, that's Rob. Yeah, Rob's compatriot. Yeah,
Rob's
yeah.
best friend.
As you'll all hear in Rob's little introduction, I'm sure he'll introduce his lovely enterprise of the Labyrinth, and I believe Derek is the. He's like the.
Is he marketing?
Director? I can't.
No,
remember.
he is
He's
not
shown
director.
up twice.
No.
He's shown up twice and went, "Do you know what? I run the Labyrinth. Nice to meet you all."
You guys are still yet to go to the labyrinth, so you'll find out more information
Indeed.
when it gets to that point.
That is on
But
the list, or a one shot.
That is definitely on the list. Yeah, or one shot. But anyway, I think this leads us into the next arc.
This leads us into the Bloodlust arc, where we decided to start traveling over to Deerstall. Not that many things happened during that small travel. Kelu lost his weapons, or at least one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, as my character intro will probably
Go ahead.
mention, I am a sorcerer / cleric as of later episodes. However, I decided it would be fun as as a sorcerer, obviously with Kalu's sort of last Dragonborn sort of dealio, that to conceal his identity, he would run around as a swordsman, of which his 8 strength did not really do too well with. So they just thought I was a very, very shit fighter, which was true.
I mean, yeah,
Yes,
you
it was true.
It took like a good 10 episodes to get in before Kello actually revealed to the group and trusted them that he's a sorcerer. So that was very interesting. But yeah, go ahead. I lost swords because I decided to throw them, and
Yes,
I was on 2 health.
you were very shit at your job, basically.
Still am.
And
Biggest understatement of the year.
we also discovered that Kel speaks giant as well. And
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
we saw that old hill giant, and Kel just talked to
I
him.
forgot about that
and
actually.
me and Rob did a bet on whether he'd get squashed or not, which was pretty funny. From there, we decided to camp out in a small cave, where things kind of went kind of hectic, with a small little old vampire attack.
Oh, I forgot about that. We were like
Oh,
level
yeah,
5.
yeah.
We
Fighting
were
a
level
vampire.
around there,
Yeah.
and we were fighting just. No, you're good. That was a fun session.
That was rough.
It
That
started
was
off
rough.
really well though, with us like absolutely kicking ass against the vampires.
Yeah.
Eventually, we did start to get a bit overrun. Granted, it kind of did help that I didn't know how temporary hit points worked at the time.
Oh yeah.
Because I kept stacking temporary hit points with my with my ability, and yeah, go. Just a bit of information, as you'll probably hear from my intro, that I play a artificer, slash bard as of late. By the time I didn't know how temporary hit points worked, so kind of ended up stacking shit. So apologies for making that little encounter a bit easier.
Until
Things
they
happen,
listen to this, and then you
True.
just
They wouldn't know, but they should know though. You know, they're people. From there, we got our asses saved by Wolfrey, who was a vampire
So
hunter.
Yeah, we met Wolfrey, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah,
guys did.
we definitely did. This guy was a vampire hunter, part of a group called the Bloody Antler, which was part vampire hunters, part just normal hunters, because they needed to provide for their town. We arrived at Deerstall with the help of Wolfrey, where we decided to sort of make a temporary name for ourselves, calling ourselves
was that
Dragon's
this
Labyrinth.
early?
That was this
Damn.
early.
Really? Was it that early?
Damn,
Yes,
that's
I
early.
thought that
It
was
was
later on.
That is early.
It was literally landed. We were talking and we are like, what should we call ourselves, just to like, you know, set up,
Oh
like, a name,
yeah.
you know. And
Remember
we
Wilfrey
went
asking.
through names like, yeah, we went through names like Archie L Detective Co., Stone Dragon's Labyrinth Investigation Agency, which literally just ended up just being Stone Dragon's Labyrinth Ltd.
Yeah, true.
I thought I didn't realize it was that
Little
early.
LLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
super early. I remember
Wow.
because I literally asked for like some pieces of wood to just carve out our thing. Let's see. Oh, that same night too. The town was attacked by an Oni.
Oh yeah, it
Oh,
was.
This would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. That
That
was
was
the
the
first. Wasn't it the first night that you stayed in the tavern?
It was literally the first
Yeah.
night we stayed at the tavern.
Yeah.
We have the tavern's name, the Wagon and Horses. Inn.
That's it.
Yeah. The Oni. Fun fight.
Very
Uh,
fun fight.
It was a fun fight. Like, I don't remember much of it apart from Landon casting heat metal on him and him having to like rip off his armor, which that was
Oh,
really
I do
cool.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a cool little moment. But apart from that, I don't remember much of it. But I do remember it was a fun fight, though.
I think it was the first time Kalu cast a spell as well. I think he.
Oh, I
used,
guess
like,
so.
Yeah,
'Cause it
because
was-
you wanted
it
to
was
hide, you
thundering.
sort of hide in your identity,
Yeah.
really, weren't you? And hide in your
It
magic.
was one of the first sort of moments Kalu was like, "It's getting rough. I need to do
Yeah.
something prominent."
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
Okay.
only kind of just came out of absolutely nowhere. We were just chilling in the tavern. Next minute, they're screaming outside.
Yeah, which was interesting, but it was fun, you know? Excuse me.
I think
cut that out.
it was definitely one of the first like biggest sort of threats that you had. Other than the
Yeah.
vampire, you had the vampire obviously, but you had help with that. Whereas the Oni was more sort of you guys were just dealing with that by yourselves. With that,
Yeah.
so I think it was a good standing point to sort of realize that we are actually we're actually pretty good at what we're doing.
Yeah. You actually got
Why
a good
did you end
mesh together, you know?
Why did we end up going to Deerstall first? Can't remember. Oh,
It,
the mayor, the mayor's.
Yeah, the mayor pointed you in that
Yeah, the
direction.
mayor-
didn't he?
yeah.
apologies. Yeah, he remember saying like, look into the vampire threat or this werewolf attack thing. I didn't think
Yeah.
we knew it was vampires
believe
initially. He was just saying,
No, I think
look
I think
into
he sort of pointed you in that direction because he noticed that
Yeah.
there's some mishappings going on in that sort of area. So
Got you.
Anyway.
This is also the first time we ever see one of Rob's employees.
Oh.
Goblin.
oh, yeah, hang
Goblin.
hang on. I have his number here. Give me
I have his
Yeah.
number 2,
Boblin 2069.
I knew you
2069.
guys wouldn't forget that.
That was.
I mean, I had to make a note of it. Like,
That is a proper
Good
story
old-
moment.
yeah, 100% prominent story moment.
100%.
Let's... Okay.
100%.
From there, we kind of agreed that this vampire business was a bit fucky-wucky.
Well said.
Yeah,
Well said.
well said.
In true land of said.
I couldn't keep it serious from there.
Fucky
Anyway,
Wookie is the wise no
pretty
said.
fucky-wucky, you know?
You're pretty.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. Anyway, from
It's
there,
fine.
we figured that there's a not that we figured, sorry, cut this out. Anyway, we discovered that the castle called Van Carden was the sort of staging point, not actual HQ, but sort of like a forward base of the vampires, thanks to Wilfrey. And we decided to travel there and deal with it. To kind of clear that shit out.
I did enjoy that. That was a good dungeon, to be fair. I did enjoy that.
That was
and
a good dungeon.
the whole fight inside was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to create a bit more of a traditional vampire theme. Sort of, I didn't want it to go completely off the books, but
I will say, like, I'll probably mention this at the end of the sort of recaps, but I'd say the Bloodlust arc is probably one of my top favorites. I'd say just because of the thematics and sort of the growth that the characters
Yeah.
went through. I thought it was
yeah, I do have to kind of agree with that. actually.
quite a good first arc. But then again, there are some fucking banging arcs in here. To be fair, there's some
True.
really good ones.
We've done a lot.
Yeah.
Talking about character growth, character arcs. This is also the first time where Kelu and Landon kind of have like a heart-to-heart.
Oh, on the mountainside. I
in
do
the mountain.
remember.
Yeah. That was
This
a
is
point
where-
where we
yeah.
decided to camp out in a mountainside. One of the funny little bits we had is that Rob literally chucks Kelu's sleeping bag out the cliff. And that was a really funny moment.
Yeah, and then didn't I think it was you? So I threw your sleeping bag out, and then Rob ended up sleeping fine. So me and you had a tantrum outside,
Yeah,
and that's how we ended.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think so.
But then it divulged into
my-
a little, I don't know, emotional episode, almost.
Yeah, a little heart
did.
to heart between guys.
Yeah,
Which
I
is-
think Landon was pretty accepting of Kelu's sort of feelings at that moment because
Yeah.
Kelu was going through a lot in terms of his sort of like overarching character arc, and he
Mhm.
just had a lot of stress on his shoulders, and this just sort of was a good outlet, I guess. It was a good sort of like character bond, bringing back into the pie, you know. I thought it
Yeah.
was good. I'd say that's probably one of my favorite moments of this arc.
It was really fun. It was emotional, but not. How do I explain it?
Wasn't enough to like, you know,
It was
be
a-
like
It was a
tearjerky, but it,
vulnerable moment between two
Yeah.
characters where it wasn't overly emotional, but was still bonding. You
it was
know?
sweet. It was a sweet
Yeah, it was
moment.
sweet. Yeah. Whenever I think about this guy, I kind of remember that a little bit. It's like, oh, that's nice. Like a
Yeah.
budding friendship, you know? From there, we managed to clear out the castle, discovering that the vampires and a character named Laufey were actually being led and commanded to attack Deerstal by
Unknown persons.
higher
Yeah. Unknown persons, I believe.
unknown
Is it-
presence.
There was
higher
a
power.
letter or something on
Yeah.
his desk that had like an
Was
initial.
that a letter?
Yeah, no idea. I think so.
Truly.
I mean, I'd have to check through my notes again, but I believe it was a letter, and it had like an initial or something, and we were like, oh,
Yeah.
he's being commanded by someone a
By
bit more
someone.
prominent, which is scary because
Oh.
Laufey was a very scary fight.
He was a very scary fight.
Yeah.
That was like
Again,
one of the
vampires.
first boss fights. Vampires were scary, dude. Especially at lower levels. Whew.
True.
From there, we cleared out the rest of the castle. Found some stuffs, some loot. And from there, we headed back to Hill Street.
Some good information as well. I think I do remember
Mm.
you sort of finding. Wasn't there like a collection of like blood from various different animals and species that you found?
Yeah, I think there was like a few vials or something, and we were like, it's just vampire, just vampire food. But
Yeah.
I think
we
that ended
found
up being something else
Yeah.
as well, right?
that was way more sinister when we continued the arc,
Yeah.
Indeed.
when we came back to the vampire business.
Indeed. A little notable fight to mention that didn't really like mount up too much, but was still an interesting fight was definitely the stone giant fight.
Oh, on the way.
Yeah, on
the
the way
way.
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had the stone
Yeah.
giant fight.
We had our
Yeah.
first fight.
Mhm.
I believe that was the only was the first fight with Wilfrey and the party, right?
Yeah, I think
Well,
Wilfrey
you
came to
could've-
help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wolfie did come to help you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we sent back Wilfrey before we actually went to the castle. Because
Yeah, we
we
didn't want him
were
to get
afraid he might die.
crushed. Yeah, and also we
Yeah.
don't want to share the loot with him.
That too.
And that. Yeah.
Fun that. From there on, we went back to Wilfrey, gave him the information, and I believe he tells us to head to a certain little city called Isilnor to
The-
potentially find out more or ask for help.
Yeah, I think so. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, before we dive into that arc, any sort of favorite moments? I mean, I know we've briefed over a few, but any other ones that sort of stand out to you guys, or any sort of character developments that was prominent, especially for you, Adam,
mean,
because
I
You were
think,
the
I think personally, because I will go to say that this is like my first time DMing anything at this point anyway during this campaign. So it's at the first start, it was very new to me, sort of, trying to design everything really from scratch because it's all homebrewed. So it was a very sort of difficult time for me to try and come up with something that wasn't obviously ripping off something else too much, but with also sort of trying to create originality to it, and also make it enjoying for you guys. So I think, to me, I really do like this art because it sort of shows my roots. It shows me like how much I've progressed from this point. Because it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but I feel like towards like the later we go down the arcs, I feel like my story writing and my inspiration has just completely excelled.
Oh yeah,
beyond,
you can definitely see. You can definitely see the development. 200%.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to sort of, that's why I feel like it's kind of has a home to me, because
Mhm.
it's it
Roots.
sort of shows me like, yeah, it shows me like sort of where I started really, and it just, it's nice to look back at the sort of the first of where to I am now, sort of
Yeah.
3-4 years later. So I think that's that, in my personal opinion, that's why I like it. But
Okay. All right. Okay, we will divulge straight back into the next arc. This arc was a bit of a weird one because this is where it sort of took us away from this sort of vampire bounty-esque plan and dragged us into Adam's overall arcing Black Hand campaign setting. So the Marble City arc was straight after the first part of the Bloodlust arc. We ended up going to Isilinor, the capital of Malin. If you guys are confused on where everything is, I believe Adam has posted a map on the Instagram page.
I have, yes. So if you haven't already, little plug in here. If you haven't already, go and check out our Instagram, which is Roll Initiative D&D. That is DND, not D&D. But go and check it out on Instagram. I've been posting all sorts of different things, little clippets and pieces of whatnot. But there is, not all of them, but there will be all of the maps that will be up there that I've created so far and that the players also have access to. So there's no spoileries there, but you can go and check them out. There is a brief description on each one on the Instagram, and so if you're sort of confused on to where the maps are, where the locations are, you can go and check them out on there. So yeah,
It's just
and they're all
yeah.
created- all created using the lovely website called Incarnate, which is amazing if you haven't used it already. For anybody else that DMs or wants to create maps for any reason, it is absolutely fantastic and amazing.
Can vouch. Carried by
yeah.
campaign.
Absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. But yeah, anyway, let's carry on with the art.
Anyway.
Something else.
Anyway, the Marble City arc, we ended up going to Isilinor, the capital. As you'll get through these later arcs, you'll realize that Isilinor is probably the most prominent city that we probably visit throughout the entire campaign. It's sort of like the heart of Malin, where most events sort of take place. I believe Wilfrey mentioned there was a plague occurring in Isilinor that was possibly linked to the vampires. So I think he was sort of like, hey, you should probably, go over to Isilinor and check that out.
Yeah, that is sort of why he sent you there. And he said that he needed some time to gather some more information anyway about these vampires. So he sort of sent you on that little errand to go and deal with.
Yeah. We ended up
turned into a bit more than just a little errand, but
well, little errand being an entire campaign. But
well.
Anyway, southward we went to Isilinor, and probably my favourite part of this arc occurred then and there, where Kalu's stubbornness and bias against certain races because of draconic pasts, we ended up getting arrested upon sight because Kalu did not like being confronted with authority, so we ended up getting arrested very violently and chucked in a cell, which was actually where we met Yelvin.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Quick little background for Yelvin. Yelvin is the elven heir, or was the heir, to the throne of Isilinor, following his mother, the Queen, who, unfortunately, I believe we don't have a name for, because I haven't wrote it down. HC hasn't wrote it down, and I don't believe Adam's wrote it down either.
No. So we don't. I've looked through all of my notes to see if I can find a name for her, and I cannot find anything.
She's just Queen.
So she is just Queen of Isilinor. So that's what she's going to be known as until I will come up with a name for her to replace whatever name that we did have, which we now have forgotten. So yeah.
Yeah, Yelvin, classic elf. I believe he's got blonde hair, sort of the skinny frame, very ranger-esque. He is a ranger, and he's quite
he is. Yeah.
now, isn't he? Level
Yeah,
15 range now. He was a bit more in training back then. But he begins to speak to us, and he mentions the plague. It's I think he mentioned it was like a possible black goo coming from the insides of victims, which I don't know who hurt you at that moment, but that was gross.
That was pretty.
That was gross. It was coming out of sort of people's eyes and noses and mouths, and it was just not a nice time for any of those people. Which led on to Yelvin mentioning a person named Voriak the Bludgeoner. And good old Voriak, pain in our ass, is one of the 5, well, now 4 members of the Black Hand. In short, Voriak was captured by the Elven Guard and kept in the vault underneath Isilinor, to which Yelvin took us down to see, along with Voriak's good old hammer, which I know he's not here to defend himself, but stupid Rob decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to grab that hammer and I'm going to touch it. Even though me and Landon both said that looks cursed, probably shouldn't touch that. And old Rob walked straight up to that hammer.
Didn't you and Rob like fail save and got almost enchanted by the hammer?
Sure. Yeah.
So you guys ended up competing for the hammer, but Rob won it.
Well, Rob's got 40 feet of movement, haven't he? He's a fast boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He's a fast boy.
Fast movement. So
he has a very higher strength than you.
Well, true. Yeah, he probably could have just launched me through the ceiling. If
I just want to add a little point. So, with the whole of Voriak, I don't know if you guys remember, but the reason why he got captured in the first place.
He attacked Walden?
Yes, he did. So, just a little bit of a backstory on Voriak. So, obviously, he's one of the Black Hand members, one of the high members of the Black Hand. But he sort of attacked the city of Walden, which is another place, which, if you've listened to the most recent episode, is where they currently are, back again. But he attacked Walden sort of a little while ago and decided to wipe out literally half of the civilians that were living there, just because he could.
He's a mean guy.
Yeah, he's a mean guy. Literally by himself, just went there and just decided to just kill some people because he felt like it. In doing so, literally left half the town to ruin, and is sort of now where that the obelisk has been built in ruin stead. So it's actually kind of might have been the reason why I actually did it in the first place, because it was kind of planned all along.
That town has gone through a lot. Like, I'll be honest,
has gone through a lot.
Walden is not having a spicy time during this campaign.
It's not having a spicy time. But yeah, that's a little bit of a backstory of Voriak. So he was captured by them.
We'll end up diving into each of the Black Hand members, because they're
the
only one we haven't
There's
really
still a few that
dove
you haven't
into
met.
is Zvim, really. We've learned about Krill and Helviena a little bit, but we'll get onto those lovely people
Later on.
later on. Anyway, good old Voriak was killed by Rob. Rob picked up the hammer and caved his skull in, which was very interesting at the time. Not surprising, because Rob is huge, like 7, ain't he like 8'2" or something? He's a big boy. Anyway,
it was also as well. It wasn't like while doing it, it wasn't literally his choice to do it. Basically, the hammer forced him to do it.
Yeah.
At the time as well, so it wasn't literally what Rob wanted to do. It was the hammer literally just did it for him, because the hammer was cursed, as you can kind of already tell. But
which, yeah, we killed Voriak. The Elven Guards weren't too impressed, because they wanted to keep him arrested and obviously keep the hammer locked away. And then we walked out. We left Isilinor. I believe we spoke to Yelvin straight after, and he mentioned the Council of Elders. Now, to Yelvin, the Council of Elders weren't exactly what we know them to be now. He was just sort of like, there's a group of traveling elders who are all too wise and know everything, and you can ask them a certain amount of questions, and they'll answer them for you. So I think this is where we sort of got ahead of ourselves, and we were like, hey, we can figure out where these vampires are. We'll go ask the Council of Elders, these all-knowing people that we could have asked so many questions to, and we decided, you know what, we're going to claim 400 gold, and we're going to ask where some vampires are. But anyway, we ended up leaving Asillion and heading to the Council of Elders outside of Walden. I think it was just east of Walden.
It's just north of Walden.
North of Walden.
Just north of Walden. There is a little bit of a lake. If anybody has looked at the map, there's a little bit of a lake that is just north of Walden. It is literally just in the in cove of where the mountain meets sort of the lake itself.
Yeah. We dove in there and began to ask him a few questions. I think Kelu asked a few about his background and his sort of his story. I think Rob asked where the toilet was. Typical Rob.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Typical Rob. And then I think we actually did, stick to mission, as we never do.
We did.
And ask about the Black Hand. This Voriak, more so than anything, because I think he mentioned the Black Hand, so we were curious who they were. And that was when we first got our first inkling into the Stone of Convergence, which I'm sure lovely DM Adam has explained what that is.
I have
in the little introduction. But that becomes the prominent goal then. Because they told us the Black Hand is after the Stone of Convergence, and it's kind of not good if they get their hands on it. So stupid Kalu was like, hey, I've got a prophecy. This definitely ties in to what I'm doing. Let's do that. And decided to convince the group. Well, I think Landon also had an inkling of we need to save the world. Good guy Landon.
Good guy Landon. We love that guy.
Mm-hmm. And then Rob, who was just like, I'm just here to stay away from the labyrinth. I'll just follow you guys.
I'm here to let everybody else do my work for me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yep.
But yeah, I believe they. Go on.
So just to add a little bit. So, no. So I just want to give a little bit of clarification to the all-knowing people that you spoke of. So they obviously, you don't know everything about them as players, and I'm not going to obviously spoil anything during this recap to anything that you don't know. But the Council of Elders, which is explained later on in the other arcs of what they actually are, but they were the reason why they resided there is because they wanted to keep themselves secret from outsiders, and they only let people in that wanted them for a good purpose. That's why they sort of talked to you in the first place, because they knew that you had good intentions. But they're a group of mystical beings that they all, when you first met them, they all talked in unison, and they were all in this very big council meeting room, sort of standing above you on pedestals. Yeah, it was very strange, and they all sort of talked to you in unison, almost like they're all linked together as one mind. It was kind of very strange. But yeah, just to give a bit of a clarification of sort of what these elders were, as you were. So
yeah, we got our answers. We got all the questions we needed, well, somewhat answered. And then we headed straight back to Asillion to tell Yelvin that the Black Hand, whoever the fuck they were, that they won the Stone of Convergence, and that's probably linked to this curse of some kind. I can't actually remember how we cured that curse, but it was linked to Voriak.
We did.
No, it was linked to Voriak, because obviously later on we find out Voriak's what he is, and his disease sort of spread through the city. But I think once we killed him, the disease sort of started to settle down, I think it's all right now. But anyway, yeah, we get back to Selenor. I think we only stayed there like one night. And then it ended up being that a guard or the like alarm bells went off on the western side. If you guys remember, and then we ended up going out chasing some guy in a hood with a black hand symbol on him.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting assaulted by like undead zombies and a banshee, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Attack on West Side by Banshee. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what I've got in my notes, is that we ended up getting assaulted by the banshee, the guy, the weird stranger on the west side. It was in like that deadland between Malin and Azwan, where the Great War happened between the orcs and elves. Bit of bad blood from those two. But we ended up finding out there's a bunch of undead, the banshee, all of that, and then the Black Hand member just disappearing into thin air. Ended up going back to the city, clarifying with Yelvin that there's undead, which was unnatural, supposedly, and that they were coming out of the eastern direction or the northeastern direction, to which Yelvin then clarified that it was from the old city of Olenora, I believe.
Yeah.
This bit is all very timey-wimey in my notes because there was a lot going on, and my notes are not exactly the best. So that's what I've got wrote down anyway. But yeah, I believe he clarifies, or somebody clarifies, and then we come back, and as we come back, we actually find out when we go to the throne room to tell Yelvin that his mother had been murdered somehow, which was a bit of a cliffhanger on an episode. The poor queen got murdered in the night by some unknown suspect, and as Kelly was thinking quick on his feet, he casted Detect Magic, but couldn't really see anything in the room, which later on we sort of pieced together what was going on. But as Yelvin stepped into the room, Yelvin sort of admitted to killing his own mother for, I believe his reason was for power. He wanted the throne, so he killed his mother in cold blood. And he was...
Wasn't Yelvin enchanted to do it?
Well, we suspected he was enchanted, didn't we? But then...
Yeah.
We later found out it was the work of Krill, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of...
By all account, I'm pretty sure that wasn't even Yelvin, my guy.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Spoilers.
So, spoilers, Krill is a twat.
Really?
Surprise. But
Who
anyway,
would've thunk?
Anyway, we come back with the report of the undead. Yelvin's mother is dead. Yelvin is arrested for murdering his mother, even though we're pretty sure Yelvin didn't actually do it. And there is no throne to Isilnur, which kind of leaves an awkward spot. We kind of stayed clear of that because we didn't think it was important.
Really?
So we just sort of took a wide berth around that question, and we're just like, hey, there's some undead, what do you want us to do about it? And then I believe that the commander or somebody sent us to Olenora, which was a fun fight because we ended up delving into the old city catacombs and fighting. Go on.
Before you get to that, do you remember the first room? And it just pops down the map and it just starts setting down minis.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like 20 minis.
Yeah.
Against four guys. Three guys.
I do remember that. A good old like level 6, level 7, stepping into a room and there's like 20 skeletons, and we were like, "There's no way we're gonna deal with this at all."
Yeah,
no
there
way.
were like 20 undead, and somehow we managed to get through it.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Really good fight though. Very good for
Yeah,
undead.
that was a really good dungeon too.
Yeah, yeah. Ended up delving deeper in and fighting a boss. I think we went into the room and the stranger with the black hand symbol on his cloak.
Mm-hmm.
I think he summoned out of a book this almost like this great undead lady, which for those of you who play Warhammer, I believe is the matriarch model from the undead.
Uh,
Actually,
it is. Yeah.
I can't remember the exact name, but it's that model.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the name of the model is.
Either
either.
way, very cool
something
model.
lady, I think it is.
Yeah. Very cool model. Very good
yeah.
sort of depiction of it. But that was the Cacklich, and she had sort of like these unique abilities where she could bend sort of time depending on which sort of way the what's it called, the timer was. I'm pretty sure that's how her sort of skill set was, and I thought that made for a really good boss fight. Which, yeah, I'd probably say was probably one of my more favorite early on fights. From like level 10 downwards, I'd say that was probably one of my more interesting sort of fights, especially now that Kelly was sort of getting into his magic flow and he kind of got rid of the swords by this point.
Yeah, so because the model itself actually has her, and then it has two sort of like ghosts, the like spirits that are either side of her, and one has a chest in their hand, and the other one has a shattered hourglass. Shattered
The
hourglass.
name of the model is Lady Olander.
Oh yes,
that's the
one.
Lady Orlando. Yeah.
Spelled
the
OLYNDER.
Yeah. So if you're not entirely too sure of what it is, just go and have a look on like put in Warhammer and then Lady Orlinda, and you'll find the model that I used for it.
It's specifically a Age of Sigmar model.
Yeah. But you can see it on there that there's those two pieces. There was actually a few things that she didn't actually do during that fight. There was a few extra little things that she did because I don't think she even used the other one with the chest. That had the chest in the hand. There was something that
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
But I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it.
back.
But there was a few extra other things that she didn't actually manage to do.
don't spoil
You did
it.
something very
Might
cool
come
at the very end of that fight, though, didn't you, Kelly?
Yeah.
Did I?
You did. She was.
did.
I believe
Please
she was
remind me what
attempting to.
Oh,
I believe she was attempting to.
Yeah, she was attempting to teleport away.
leave.
Oh, I remember that.
She was
I do
attempting to
remember
teleport
that.
away, but you
counter
ended up
teleported.
counter-spelling her. Yeah, which was
Big
her only
counterspell.
chance to escape. Only chance to escape.
Yeah.
Big
Um,
counter spell.
Which I didn't necessarily plan for myself. I was hoping that she would escape, but
Hey,
sort
that's
of
what we
you know,
had to
just
do.
a
Root
little
plans.
bit of a tease, but
We had to do.
but
You're
I think
welcome.
that's something that I've kind of actually taken away from doing that a special boss fight. I think I've redesigned boss fights to really sort of look at each individual angle because at the start, you know, like I said before, at the start it was sort of new to me. So
Yeah.
sort of, you know, designing something by myself because I could completely design Cacklich from the ground up. So designing her and then sort of designing the fight as a whole, I think then sort of realized after you sort of did that counter spell on her, realized right, okay, there is these things in the game that can kind of just stop you from doing that or stop you from doing things, and didn't really, you know, come into consideration. So now that sort of something I've taken away from that is to go like, okay, I need to look at every aspect of this, to be like, right, okay, can this be done if I want it to go this way? Can it be counterspelled or can it be countered by something?
Yeah.
Or so on and so forth.
I do
So-
remember in the good old early arcs, obviously because I started DMing before you, and we I was sort of in the flow of it by that point, sort of a good 40-50 episodes into mine. You were sort of like messaging me, sort of like, oh, you know, how do I homebrew this? But also gave me the most minimalistic details so I wouldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
I could do this for this, hypothetically, but I'm not actually doing this for this, it's for something else. And I was like, okay, well.
Yeah, because I didn't have a clue.
Now
what
I
was
don't need the help. You're a fully
No.
fledged individual DM.
I am.
It throws me off guard. Look at you, little character growth. But anyway,
Character arc.
that was the end of the Marble City arc. After we returned to Isilnor, killing the Cackledge, ending the good old undead reign, and finding out the Black Hand are up to no good summoning undead on Isilnor's doorstep. But for what reason? It's explained later in the other arcs, don't worry. We'll get to it.
Pretty much.
But I believe
Uh,
Adam will put this on too.
Before anything,
Oh,
I
sorry.
actually wanted to
Better points. Go ahead.
Oh.
sort of rewind a little bit. Because this is also the arc where the Ring of Souls first appears.
Oh, I completely forgot about the whole little side
Oh
bit. with
yeah.
The random necromancer.
So a little bit of background, which we literally just passed during the arc in Deerstall. We heard rumors of a necromancer, which
That's right, yeah.
led us to finding an old guy that's trying to make his own language. He was really fun. Really highlight character.
Oh, I
Adval.
missed
Adval.
that.
We love that
Adval.
guy.
Oh,
We
we
love
stand
that guy.
Adval. We stand Adval. Anyone who
yeah,
hurts
we
Adval,
stand
Kello
Adval.
will turn chaotic
guy.
evil.
He is an
So a
amazing
bit of
guy.
a bit of a backstory on Advil. So Advil is this old guy that sort of lives in like a basement basically in his house, and he's batshit crazy. He is just naturally just crazy, but he basically wants to try and create his own language. So he is a linguist. He studies other languages to sort of combine them and try and figure out that he can create himself, but by sort of trying to learn all these different languages and spend all the time reading and diving into things that maybe he shouldn't have, and different languages that are sort of not necessarily well known, but ones that are not prohibited, but you know, you get sort of the general gist, are very hard to find and come across. So he kind of went a bit crazy from just sort of spending so much time trying to learn languages, and yeah, he's a very nice and down-to-earth guy, but he's all over the place and sporadic. And you guys like
took a
him to
toll.
him. Yeah. Probably talking to a bloody mind flare to just sort of learn deep speech, like.
Oh.
Yeah, to be honest with that, it surprised me.
But yeah, we had heard rumors of a necromancer, and people saying that Adval was a necromancer. So we were like, hey, let's go check this guy out. Maybe we can get some extra money from him. Turning him in, you know. Crazy thought now, you know.
Yeah, turns out he's the sweetest guy possible.
He is.
Yeah, sweet boy Adval. I wonder how he's
Absolutely nothing to do with necromancy. Like,
at all.
like
He's
at
just
all.
the nuts. He's just a crazy old.
Oh.
He's the crazy old man of the village.
Yeah. I believe he tells us that his wife left him too, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audrey?
Audrey, yeah.
Audrey? I'd have to look
Yeah.
through notes for that.
Yeah, Audrey.
This
And
is going
this kind of
now.
comes up again in this arc because we are actually asked to by some old lady to find her ring. and
yeah.
And we're like, that's a weird request. Yeah, we find it, we'll tell you about it. We managed to find the ring, but as we inspect the ring, we discover that it is a ring of souls. Essentially snatching your soul if you dare to wear this ring. And just so happens that the ring's names are Audrey and Orwin.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Wasn't her, was her soul in it, or?
No, it wasn't her
Oh.
soul. We believe that Audrey might just be this necromancer
That's the one.
that's looking for this ring because
Yeah.
it's her ring.
Which
It's
also might
Audrey's
be-
ring.
Was
And
it the old woman or?
I
I
believe
can't
she was the
remember.
old woman.
That's what we
I-
suspected
we-
anyway.
We suspect that Audrey was this old woman asking us to find her ring, but turns out that she's this supposed necromancer. Okay?
Mm.
Okay? Now, we sort of like put that on the bottom of our worries, and on our way to Walden, I don't remember if you mentioned this, but we actually come up on a little abandoned outpost where we discover that it's been ransacked.
Oh, is this
Oh,
where
yeah.
we learned about Helviana?
This is the first mention of Helviana on
Yeah.
a burnt letter we found. And it was just an interesting little exploration bit where we didn't know we were gonna get attacked, so we were always like on high alert, but we were also exploring at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the log cabins area, wasn't it?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a log cabin.
Yeah, the log
Didn't realise
cabins
that
are
was
in the
beyond.
woods.
Yeah,
Huh.
No, no, that was that far back.
yeah. From
Was
there,
it- you ended up testing out the ring, didn't you?
not
Oh.
yet.
No,
We'll
that's
get there.
later on. That's
that
on the
later on?
way
We'll get there.
to.
That's on the
Is
way
that on the way-
back.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll get there. So, while we were talking with the elders, we all had like our own questions. Landon's questions were, of course, how is his mother? He hasn't been back home in a while. Where he learns that she's
Oh.
actually very sick and has like she's terminally
She was
ill,
super ill. Yeah,
Like,
she was super
terminally
ill
ill.
with. I don't think
but she only
the-
had a few months to live.
Yeah, I don't think the
Exactly.
council
That is
mentioned
what the-
it.
Yeah,
we
that's what-
learn how sick she is when we get there, don't we?
yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that Landon learns is whether his father is still alive. And I believe they say yes, question mark. They
Maybe.
kind of give a vague answer of yes.
Dude, they gave us all vague answers. We had no.
Yeah,
There was no like,
Well, they-
yes, this is here, go here.
yeah. But they gave a vague answer of a yes. And so we're like,
Yeah.
okay. That's good information for Landon. He at least knows that he's out there, you know? On the way back is when we actually meet up with Colt again.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
stumbled
yeah,
past his
from the
cabin,
first
didn't we?
school, yeah.
And he lets us stay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is when Kelly loses it a little bit.
Kind of. You also get more in tune with your godly side, your more clerical side.
Mm.
This is like one of the first few times where you actually like sit down and like try and do more cleric actions.
Yeah,
With
I think
a-
this was
You start to do a bit more sort of worshipping and
Yeah,
you know,
I think at this
Yeah.
point, me as a player, I was sort of looking at Kalu and thinking, where do I want to go with this? I think at that point, I was sort of looking at Kalu's background, and as I probably explained, the Order of Draconic Wisdom, there's a lot of sort of history with gods and their sort of
Mhm.
backgrounds, and as you'll find out, Asgaroth was a very prominent part in Kalu's life. So I think at that point, I was like, do you know what? It wouldn't actually be a bad thing if Kalu took a few levels in Cleric, which at the moment I've only taken one. I don't know if I'm going to take another one, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think this was sort of my way of building up to a reason, RP-wise, why Kalu would be inclined to become a Cleric.
hmm
So I think I was sort of just RPing that and playing that sort of for like the long run, you know? So it wouldn't be like, hey guys, I'm
Right.
taking a level in Cleric, surprise. You know? But yeah, Kalu became a little bit more religious and got a bit curious about the ring Landon had at Colt's place.
You did. And you decided to test it out on Colt,
Yeah.
which kind of switches the soul that's inside the ring into Colt's body and Colt's ring into Colt's soul into the ring, and that's when we
Yeah.
discover that the soul in the ring is Landon's father.
Yeah, that was very
That was a very
that was a breakthrough.
emotional
Yeah,
session.
yeah,
for
that
Landon.
was yeah. You RP'd that very
I-
well. That was very much
thank
like I
you.
genuinely felt like like I actually pissed you off. I was like, oh no. I was like,
Thank
oh no,
you.
I've upset him. But then when we finished the session, you were like, yeah, no, that was a really good session. Scared me.
It was very interesting because I, as a player, have a bit of a, I wouldn't say tumultuous relationship with my own dad, but it's there, and I wasn't expecting to have to tackle Landon's own emotions on his own father, and it was very interesting.
I thought it
Kinda-
was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, you're good.
What I would like to point out is that obviously Drindar comes in later in the story. But I love
does,
how
yeah.
during these first couple of arcs, Rob, the very low intelligence, low social IQ, big brawny minotaur, has just tagged along with a dragonborn / half dragon that's struggling with the idea of responsibility, and a very highly emotional, fatherless, doesn't know how to run family, also struggles with responsibility gnome, who
Yeah,
are just both battling their emotions. Meanwhile, Rob has zero thought about emotions and only thinks about food every
Yeah.
5 seconds. It's great. It's a very good dynamic because, as you'll see during these episodes, Kalu and Landel have these sort of moments where it'll be very serious and then it'll bring you down and they'll sort of have these sort of emotional connections. And then out of nowhere, Rob just say something and it will completely destroy every aspect of seriousness or emotion
Yeah.
that we've been building up for the past like 30 to 40 minutes, and Rob will kill it in a phrase, one phrase. But it's great. You need to have a comic relief. It balances things out, and I love Rob for it. Which, yeah, Landon and Rob sort of duo is one of my favorites. So you got the Landon and Kalu bromance, where it's sort of like, oh, we're both very emotional, and then you got the Landon and Rob sort of, let's just do stupid shit together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the very much Rocket and Groot
Yeah.
situation from Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
It's
very
very
much that
fun.
type,
I
very
love
much,
this little dynamic.
It is good.
And-
It is good. And adding
Yeah.
Drindar to the mix later on down the road, which we'll get
Mm.
to, it's a good dynamic overall, I think.
Yeah.
Players.
But going back to Landon's father, we discover that Landon's family, at least the male members of the family, have a curse in their blood,
Oh.
where when they reach a certain age, they'll develop this ability to just age everything that they touch to the point that it becomes dust.
yeah.
So, for that reason, is that Landon's father left because he didn't want to hurt his family anymore, or at all with his ability.
yeah,
And that's when Landon discovers that, oh shit, he might have this eventually. So now he kind of has that worry.
yeah. I think it was like mid-30s
it
or
is
something.
that.
It comes on, or
Yeah.
40s, and Landon's a good
I-
old, what, like 24, 25, something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, he's. That's a problem we need to face. Actually, this is a good reminder that we
Yeah.
need to actually worry about that sometimes.
Landon has been worrying about it, like in the back of his head, and every now and then, whenever there's a chance or there's something that
yeah.
could probably like help
Unless
with
there's
that,
something else in the back of
I
your head.
bring it up. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later on.
Yeah.
I
But-
oh,
Yeah, I think that's everything for that arc, really. I believe. I don't think there's really much
Yeah,
else
I think
really to
I
add.
think these first two arcs are sort of very good. Well, you've got the first introduction arc, and then you got the first two. One being our sort of first little side quest, and the other one being the introduction to the main story. I think both of them together are both really good at us as players getting a feel of how we want to play our characters for the rest of the campaign.
Oh yeah,
And I think towards the end of this arc now, it sort of becomes set in stone how everyone wants to play their characters in terms of for the long run. I think by this point, Kalu started to open up to the other group and is now sort of more trusting with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Instead of being very shit with people as he was in the earlier ones. But now he's developed his charisma. It's up to 20. He's now good at talking to people.
True.
But I believe that's the Marble City arc. We end up going back to Isilinor and getting word from Wilfrey, which leads us on to the Bloodlust continues.
Yeah, it does. Which the Bloodlust continues arc is obviously going back to Wilfrey and discussing what he has found. More vampires, which is discussing what his sort of what he's found, what sort of what things that you guys have been up to while you were in Missinor, and whatnot, and talking to the Council of Elders, and things like that. But he discussed with you that he found a vampire HQ, which is located more north of Malin, in a large sort of cavern area in the mountain ranges up north. Which you guys he asked you guys to tag along and sort of join him on this escapade with the rest of his blooded antler men.
Yeah, you got a whole ass army together.
Yeah, he basically got this whole sort of group together.
It was like a militia.
It was, to sort of try and take down this vampire threat once and for all. And he wanted you guys to tag along for the ride. So you guys did. You traveled, but before you traveled, this I want to add is the first time where Rob was seduced by somebody in the Blooded Antler, which was absolutely hilarious.
Rob went to buy some steaks innocently.
Yeah, he went to go and buy some steaks from someone that was inside of the hall.
Wooden steaks, not
some wooden steaks, not meat steaks. And yeah, he got rizzed up. He's getting rizzed up by this woman. This woman took a really big attraction to him.
It's great as well because both Matt, who plays Rob, and Rob as a person have, well, I wouldn't say Matt has zero social IQ, but it's just the sort of dynamic of, oh, I'm getting flirted with. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, it's that sort of
or just being completely oblivious to it.
Yeah, it's either the realization that he's with and then not knowing and panicking, or it's the realization, not the realization of not knowing what. Yeah, it's exactly it's
was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun to listen to.
But that was hilarious. But nonetheless, they gathered their things and you guys traveled to the vampire base, which was up north.
I believe we stopped in. I think we stopped. Did we stop in Malden on the way, or did we go to?
No, you went to Glanwynell. Winnell? Yeah, Glandwyn. I can't even remember how you pronounce that. Glandwyn. Glandwyn. Yeah, that's it. Glandwyn.
We've only been there once, and we haven't.
Yeah, been there once. So, but yeah, you stopped there. I think only just for a night while you were traveling by horses and carts and things. And then you made your way up to the caverns, up to the very north, very northern part of Malin. Which
would like to interject.
Yeah.
This is the first time where Landon decides to actually perform music.
Oh, this is where you take
Oh yeah, he does.
You take your level
Yeah.
bard
First-
first, don't you?
First level in Bard, yeah.
I don't take my first level in Bard,
It's soon
do you
after
but I
though.
I
Just until
kind
I
of
build up.
play up to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of take that moment in character progression to like understand that what do I want to do with Landon, and I know that he's partially a performer, so it's like why not add that into the mix? Eventually level up to Bard.
I mean, it makes
And
sense
that's
considering you
where-
were in a traveling troupe to start the
Yeah.
campaign off with, so it made sense. And
Uh,
I think at this point we were in cahoots. We were sort of like, you're becoming more religious. You're playing more music. Are you
Yeah.
multi-classing? And we were both like, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like to this is the first few steps to like multiclassing. And I kinda like that.
Yeah.
I really do like the way that you guys played it off, rather than it just sort of not necessarily becoming an instant thing of you taking a level and it sort of taking effect. It was almost like this sort of build-up that you had to
This build up, yeah.
that
give
you
us a
had,
reason
like,
to, you know.
yeah, it's sort of giving you a reason almost into sort of adapting onto your backstory, which is an absolute brilliant way of doing it. That I thought was really ingenious, doing this whole
Oh.
multi-classing.
We do our
which was
best.
which was all new to me at the time because I didn't really know what I was doing with the whole multi-classing, but I do now. But anyway, we'll continue with you guys reaching the fortress, the vampire fortress, which was deep into the mountain range in a cavern. With you and Wolfrey and the rest of the Blooded Antler venturing in there. You guys came to the fortress, and just outside of the fortress, surrounding the whole entire the outside, was a bunch of ghouls that I do believe, or a bunch of
Oh,
lesser
yeah.
vampires. There was loads of them, of these lesser vampires, were just almost this sort of state of sort of not necessarily moving too much, but just this idle state, almost, as though they haven't been fed blood in quite a while and been starved, so they're in this sort of idle state. So you were trying to find ways to get across, but you found one way, but it would only be able to take a few of you to be able to get across, which you sort of scaled across the side of the wall to get to the fortress itself. But you would need a bit of a distraction from the vampires that were down below if you got spotted. So some of Wilfrey's men from the Blooded Antler went down and had a bit of a distraction and a bit of a fight with them. Which
That was a death
Yeah.
sentence. That was
yeah,
a death
pretty
sentence.
much
We
was.
knew what we were doing. We felt bad
Um,
straight after.
Yeah. I believe Wilfrey came with you though. I think.
Yeah, it was the four of us.
Yeah, it was the four of you. But you went into the fortress, which was very, very entertaining, and very. I really enjoyed designing it on my part.
These bosses were amazing, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
think we credited you enough when these
Yeah.
these three came out. These were all so good, like all very unique.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Were we
can
finding
explain.
them one behind another?
Yeah, I think it was literally one after the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So-
like boss fight, exploration,
Yeah.
boss fight, exploration.
Yeah, because we were learning about the family as we were going through the castle, which take it away because the explanation for them were good.
Yeah. So as you went into the fortress, you were not immediately met with facing against somebody. And from what I remember, you weren't faced with a threat straight away. Is that you were sort of faced with a bit of an exploration, be able to kind of walk around the fortress, which almost as though you've been sort of welcomed in, which was quite strange. As when you first entered in, you found that there was a bit of an ornament that was in the center of the room, which represented Vecna, which you, after you doing your religion checks, you sort of a hand in the eye, sort of the representation of Vecna, which was a little bit of a like, oh, okay, that's kind of bad.
That was an oh shit, we're in danger moment, I think.
Yeah, that was an oh shit danger. Sort of, yeah.
One thing I want to take note of.
Go for it.
Just saying, Kian, I do still have that statue.
Do you? Oh, we
I
need to
do.
get rid of.
It's
We
in my-
need to get rid of that.
It's in my bag of holding.
I didn't
Get rid of
even
that.
remember that you had that.
We need to get
Yeah.
rid of that.
I
That's a good
remember
reminder.
taking that statue.
That's a good reminder.
That little like hand statue of Vecna.
Yeah, we should get rid of that. That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what?
Fine.
Put that on my notes to do
Fine.
list. The next session.
Just toss it out. Just leave it. Anyway, you guys traveled around a little bit, had a bit of an exploration, and you went into the next sort of like room or floor. You guys are going to have to kind of help me out a little, because I don't have all my notes for it, and I can't remember exactly how I planned it, the whole fortress out myself. But you were first met with I can't remember if it was Alviri.
The sister was the first one, Alvira.
Yeah, so
She was
the
in
whole
the library?
Yeah, I think she was. Yeah.
believe so,
So
yeah.
you went into a library and you found out that these are sort of like the elder vampires that have been here for hundreds of years, and they're the Vondran family of the vampires. And you found within the library was Alveria, and she was quite manipulative. She had this crystal ball that she had in her hand. She used quite a lot of magic while sort of going about the library itself. I think she was sort of like talking to you at the same time as well, sort of fighting you. Which was...
she was very like psychic based charms and all
Yeah,
that
she
sort of-
was. Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
stuff.
Which I believe you guys sort of enjoyed that fight. With
Yeah,
her.
I mean all three
Yeah.
fights were very good.
Yeah.
My favorite is coming up.
Yeah. You guys are really going to have to help me out on this one because I don't have all my notes and I could not remember everything for this.
Oh, don't you worry. I've got them all right.
Yeah, you're just to clarify to everybody. So my notes that I used to take my notes on, I actually don't have access to them anymore. So I used to take all my notes down on a laptop, but my memory stick that I had them all saved on ended up getting corrupted, and I could not retrieve them. So my notes only backdate so far. So I'm kind of relying on these guys at the moment to be like kind of help because I can't remember. It was like 3-4 years ago.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that is
exactly why
they're
we're here.
Yeah, exactly why they're here. But I would like them to be along for the ride, and it's nice to have a bit of a discussion anyway. Yeah, in the next sort of, I can't remember what happened in the next room because you went sort of like from exploration
Some
to fight to
things
exploration.
I do remember is that we at some point got up to one of the bedrooms and we stole their mattress.
Oh, yeah. So, no, right. So this became a thing back in the original the Bloodlust arc when
Yeah.
Rob went the whole thing threw off the side of the cliff from me and Lan had that emotional moment. I think straight afterwards when we assaulted Von Carden Keep, I needed a bed with a bag of holding, so I
Oh
literally
yeah, I remember.
I
this.
literally got Rob.
mattress.
Yeah, I got Rob to pull the entire mattress off Laufey's bed and put it in the bag of holding,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
taking up all the
Yeah.
room and all the weight. but I don't care.
Yeah.
I was comfy. So I think we
Yeah.
sort of carried on the tradition, and I think we stole their mattresses.
I think we
All the
stole one of
entire
their
bed.
mattresses, and then
Yeah.
no, we stole one of their mattresses and then set the room on fire.
Ah, yeah.
Yep,
we were
that was
out
it.
for blood. We were out for
We were
blood.
out for blood. From there we went on to, I believe, fight Alvira, and then from there, I believe we went down.
No, you went to the. No, so yeah, you did. Yeah, you did that first. Then you fought Alveria, and
Yeah.
then you went down.
We went to the
into.
basement.
Yeah, you went to the basement. Yeah, which
which
going into the basement was filled with like blood, like these blood bags and
massive
vials of
tanks,
blood.
weren't there? There's massive
yeah.
tanks of blood.
Big tanks of blood and stuff, all from like different creatures, various.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's got.
Sorry. No,
There
no,
you
I haven't
go.
cut out. I haven't cut out. No, I was just
Okay.
Alan came in, so I'll cut that out.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So yeah, you guys went down. You went into a basement of sorts, which had various sort of vials of blood, all different kinds from different creatures, which was very similar to what the Vanguard and Keep from the previous sort of Bloodless arc. But down here you found some records and sort of links between Laufey, which was at the sort of the vampire lord and castle, and Hell Vienna, which you've had only a little bit at this current time to who she is.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of link between the vampires and Hell Vienna.
Wasn't
so-
there There was another letter from Hell Vienna or a Black Hand member asking them to collect different samples of blood from
Yes,
different animals.
yeah,
and
from
creatures
different
and things like
animals
that.
and things.
But we didn't
Yeah,
know why.
You didn't know why, and I don't think
All
you
we
still
knew is that they were.
you
We
still
probably
didn't
don't
know
still.
why.
No, we probably still
Uh,
don't. But
No, I don't think you do. But that's besides the
Oh.
point. You probably figure it out later on.
right, that's all.
But yeah, so you guys figured out that there was some kind of connection between Hell Vienna, the Black Hand, and these vampires, sort of tying the two together. And in doing so, you were interrupted by Dorian, which he's the younger brother out of the two, and he, like you probably would agree, Kian, that he was my favorite out of the three.
He's also my favorite. I think he was
Yeah.
so well designed, and like the brief moments that we had with him, even though we knew absolutely nothing about this guy, I feel like his story was told so well.
Yeah,
Like within like the first 3 minutes of meeting him, it was like, oh, this guy's it. Cool. Boss
Yeah.
fight.
yeah,
It was the more psycho of the three, right?
Yeah, he was the
yeah, he was.
the sort of like younger, blood crazed, lives off
Yeah.
blood, almost like blood alcoholic.
Yeah,
deal.
blood
Yeah.
alcoholic.
But yeah, he was good. He gave sort of like psycho vibes, which was good. Very good. I really enjoyed that boss fight. I'd say it's probably the better of the three. Sort of not only
Yeah.
just boss fight mechanically, but also just story implementation into the boss fight as well. It was good.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that. I do believe that it's out of the three of them, I think that he was probably my favorite, just purely because of his sort of, obviously, I would say traditionalness of vampire. I guess he had
Yeah.
that sort of like bloodlust craze, like you said, and he was talking to you sort of during the sort of in between, having these moments of talking,
Yeah.
trying to attack you, which was all new to you. Conversation at the same time, which is interesting. But yeah, with these vampires, I did build them from the ground up. They're not just base vampire stats. They're basically the base vampire stats which have been overhauled and added to. He had a sort of a chalice that he had in one hand that was just completely full of blood. And if I remember rightly, I think it replenished itself with blood, like endless blood supply. Within his
things like that as well.
yeah, basically he would drink it and it would give him like abilities and stuff like that, enhance his with being a vampire. But it basically every couple of rounds or whatever, his chalice like filled back up again. It was like this endless blood chalice that he had. And yeah, it was
Very cool boss fight.
it's very cool.
Very thematic.
Yeah, very interesting, very cool. I did enjoy that one. Nonetheless, you finished up there and collected all the things that you could and the knowledge that you had from down in the basement, and you headed up to the top of the fortress, which you came
Stole
to.
the bed.
Yeah, stole the bed.
Stole the bed.
Yeah, again. Which you came to at the top. You came to almost sort of the master bedroom of the fortress itself, and you came to a balcony, and out of this balcony, while you were looking out over the top, you noticed that there was this sort of grand fight between all of the deer store blooded antlers, sort of fighting off these vampire side of and sort of the blood's like slaughter that you can kind of just see going on. And I believe that not at that moment, but down actually in the courtyard, which is where you came in, was Virgil, the final sort of
the eldest brother.
Yeah, the eldest brother. So you head back down all the way out to the courtyard again, and you face off Virgil, which I did enjoy making him.
Wasn't
the boss fight?
I believe Virgil. No, I believe that Virgil was in the fight against the Deerstall guys, and he ended up, and it was just a complete cancellation of the Deerstall guys.
I think he just wiped them out. Yeah,
like the vampire guys and Deerstall guys canceled each other out and killed each other, but Virgil
messed him up.
killed the last ones, so we went to face him.
Yeah.
That
was a good boss fight.
You guys,
That was a fun fight.
faced him. It basically, he didn't really special about him. He was more traditional vampire, but with just enhanced.
Super strong.
Yeah,
Super strong.
Yeah, he was
hoity-toity.
a strong vampire.
Yeah.
No, like nothing really magical or anything really special about him. It was just a basic vampire with boosted up stats.
Still fun to fight though.
Still fun. Still fun. And scary because it's vampires, and vampires are not easy to face off.
Yeah.
Which I think Rob finished him off with a wooden stake.
Yeah,
I think
Rob
so,
was on stake duty. Rob was on stake duty.
Yeah.
Which, but I think throughout
me
the
and
whole
Landon.
fight,
Me
I
and
think
Landon don't have the
throughout the
strength
whole
to do it.
entire fight, though, I believe that you didn't finish off the others with a wooden stake. I think you went in after you sort of finished them off and stabbed them with the stake after they were down.
Yeah.
But I think Virgil, I believe that you had sort of had this moment of actually like pinning him and stabbing him with the stake, to kill him. Like not while he's already down or anything, which was absolutely sick. And probably one of my favorite moments of during the arc.
Like stake him as well, so he couldn't move, or something like that. It was sort of one of those moments where Rob like pinned him down with the stake. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Just saying, the thing said they're disconnected but reconnected.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think it's fine. It's still saying that it's got up to 4 hours from now of recording.
Gotcha.
So I think it's still fine. I believe it's still fine.
Perfect. Caught that. Anyway. But yeah, it was a really fun fight. It was really tough, mainly because we were all like exhausted from the other 3 fights too.
Spell slots were low.
Spell slots were low,
Healing
ability
potions
uses
were
were
low.
slow.
Yeah. It was getting rough down there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, favorite moments of the second Bloodlust arc?
Honestly,
Favorite moment?
one of my top favorite moments is when I was mentioning this when Landon decides to perform for the entire
Yeah.
Yeah.
the entire
Sure.
war group, the
Yeah.
entire band,
Mm.
and decides to absolutely blow all his money to give him a really like amazing night,
Mm.
like drinks, food, and then the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Speaking
was really
of,
fun.
my favorite moment of this arc, which I believe we've brushed over briefly, is before we left Asillinor to meet with Wilfrey, between last arc and this arc, I believe we were gifted 30 Roosevelt Road or something like that. 30 Roosevelt Street with Caecilius.
Oh
Yes!
yes, yes,
in
yes, you
that
was.
house. And shortly after we were given the house, the permafrost came about. And we had a
Oh,
little house
yeah.
party.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so touching back on that, yeah. So because
Go on.
you helped out with the sort of the curse and everything, the plague that happened with some of them, you were gifted a house within the Citadel's walls, and you were
Queen
given.
was supposed to give us it, but she died. So I think it was sort of left in her name.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a butler that looked after it. Yeah, he was amazing.
Caecilius.
Caecilius III. And yeah,
He sounds exactly as his name says, by the way.
Yeah.
For all you listening,
Yeah.
he sounds exactly as you'd expect him to.
Yeah. But yeah, he looked after the house, and there's this event that happens within every year called the permafrost, which basically like near enough everywhere in the whole entire gets pretty much freezing temperatures within 24 hours. Is this freezing temperature that sort of just comes across the whole entire of the realm itself, which you guys pretty much had to stay inside because you didn't have any warm clothes or anything.
Yeah.
So you had to stay inside, which you stayed inside the house, and you guys and Caecilius sort of had a little bit of a party inside.
I think,
but this
we-
frost that's going on the outside.
I'm pretty sure Landon dropped like 3k on booze.
Yeah,
Or
I think
something
so. Yeah,
drastic.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like we all had a share of money.
I literally blew all my money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because we
To-
had we had a share of money that we sort of, after selling from Laufey and stuff, we were all like, right, we're gonna split it, and you can do whatever you want with it. And then
Mhm.
Kelly was like, traditional draconic. I'm gonna hoard it or get some magic items. Rob was like, I'm gonna buy something stupid, i.e., food. And then I'm pretty sure Landon just went, you know what? I'm gonna drop 3k on alcohol, and we wheeled in several barrels. Different.
Yeah.
Well, that was before that you guys went on this whole vampire escapade with the Bloodlust Continues. But anyway, coming to the end of that arc, just as you sort of finish up the whole ideal of killing the vampires, and sort of with you guys and Wilfrey and maybe a smattering of some of the blooded antler that was still left, coming outside, you were greeted with the Council of Elders, which sort of helped you beforehand, which you were surprised to see them, all just sort of standing there, waiting for you to come out, as if they knew that you.
Yeah. Remember coming out with we came up with Virgil's head, like, oh, dude, we're gonna go back to the Craig and claim the bounty.
Yeah.
And then the council showed up and we're like, do you know what? Nah, you ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that's a good
But
place to cut. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Cut what I just said.
But that is where you guys, sort of out of the blue, just get told without really even knowing any information entirely. You just get told by the Council of Elders to watch out for the Waldwin's feet, which none of you knew at the time what that meant. And within a snap of one of their fingers, all of you completely disappeared, sort of seeing black for a few seconds and reopening your eyes to somewhere completely different.
Yeah. I believe the council they did give us a reason why, because obviously we inquired about the Black Hand. I think
they had a brief
said-
discussion with you, but
Yeah.
they didn't tell you where you
They
were
didn't
going.
explain
or
this
nothing.
entirely.
They
They were just sort of
No.
like, you need to go to the Earth Plane, seek Baldwin, watch out for his feet, help him.
Yeah, and then you guys were like, "What?" And then they just sort of whipped you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the end of that Bloodlust Continues arc.
Very good arc. Very good arc.
And from there, we continue on to the involuntary travel arc. This
Yeah, boy.
is a interesting arc because it's like both big but not. But we also like learn a lot of shit and setup.
A lot
Yeah.
happened in a short space.
I mean,
of
you
time.
lot
spent
of
you spent
shit.
quite a few sessions here, really, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
I think you all wanted to leave by the end.
We did.
There was so much that happened during that arc, like that was just kind of thrown at you in your face. Look, you were just like, "Whoa!" So
Oh, damn. Not a lot of, like, not even a lot of, not that a lot was thrown to our face, but it's also like a combination of events up to that point is like, man, we need to like regroup. We need to like,
yeah.
Yeah.
center
I think these next two arcs are the big ones for like revealing what the Black Hand were and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was I mean, in my opinion, I think that this arc was probably because one of the reasons why, not necessarily that you didn't want to be there, was more the fact of like you were just put here. Like it wasn't by choice. Like you kind of just were thrown into somewhere, and it was more of sort of this unknown and learning so much. Because like you said, not loads happened, but you were sort of just like one thing after the other just sort of happened, and you were there just like, whoa. Like by the end of it you were sort of exhausted, which you were played it really well because all of your characters were sort of exhausted as well. So it was good. But take it away, HC Orlando.
We basically started with being teleported to the Earth plane in an area called Kalmandur.
Kalmandur. Yeah, Kalmandur. It's hard to pronounce. I know it's hard to pronounce.
What's funny, I got it spelled with a K on my notes, so.
Oh, you've got to spell with a K. Oh, no, it's with a C. It's with a C.
Because I believe I think I did ask you. I don't remember if I asked you or not, but hey, it is a thing.
Yeah.
It's also like a great little description from your side because you described it as us going on a path, and then there's just a giant skeleton.
True.
Sitting across.
Give a description
one
of-
the-
Go
Well,
on.
the mountain-
Give a description of
Yeah.
the area, Adam. Go on.
What? Oh, okay.
Give a description.
What, a description of what Kalmandur?
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh god, it was a long while ago. So when you guys first arrived, it was a complete area of just rocky terrain of mountains. There wasn't really much in the way of grassland or anything of the like. It was very rock, raw materials, sort of ores and things just showing up on the surface of the rocks. Sort of, it was a very different sight that you guys had. Compared to what you've been in, this sort of luscious grass green of Malin. It's a different sort of environment. So sort of immediately after you got teleported, you were just sort of arrived on the side of the cliff, I believe. From what I remember, you just sort of arrived just on a mountainside, and off, sort of looking off into the distance, you just see this giant skeleton. Humongous skeleton, to like 300 foot tall skeleton, that is literally just like 3,000, not 300, 3,000 like foot tall, but like sort of like laying into the side of the mountainside, almost like it's been dead for like probably like 100 years, and some of the bones are like sort of like decaying away a little bit, but most of the remains are still there, but just sort of almost embedding itself into the actual mountainside and becoming one with it. But yeah, as you sort of like you moved around this space, you saw there was a lot of these like giant skeletons that were around, and various different sort of mountain peaks and different alcoves of rocky terrain. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily the most colourful sort of area that you've been to, other than like the glimmers of the ores and things and different crystals and stuff like that. It was mostly quite like a dull sort of atmosphere, I guess, and sort of terrain look.
Yeah, I think it was the first time that we sort of felt very, very small.
Yeah, it
Like,
definitely was. Yeah,
A big sort of eye opener of like,
I mean, shit.
stuff's getting real.
Landon feels small all the time, but god.
Well,
yeah. I
true.
mean, yeah, Landon is tiny, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was that's the impression I wanted from the whole entire thing. Like, I wanted you guys to like, not in a bad way, but in a good way, to kind of be like, yeah, we've been doing these things like within the past few arcs. You've been doing these really cool things and doing really awesome, really well, and sort of bigging yourselves up in a way, and getting you sort of used to your characters and sort of gaining the magic items and things and experience along the way, and getting to this point of sort of not a higher being, but almost of like, oh yeah, I feel really good about my character, I feel really good. And then I wanted to sort of hit you in the face with, oh yeah, we may be cool and that, but we're not like nowhere near this. That's sort of the impression I wanted to get off, and I think I did really well with it. And I'm not bigging myself up, but I think I did pretty well with it, sort of hitting you in the face with, oh, this is crazy. Which is, sometimes you kind of need it, because if you're just going around and killing everything and doing really, really well and getting all these magic items and stuff and just breezing through stuff, being hit in the face with this sort of, sorry for like sort of taking over a little bit, Brian, but like meeting, cause they met someone for the first time, called Bo Aldwin, which he was one of my favorite characters that one of my favorite sort of NPCs that I've ever designed. But he is this 3,000 foot tall skeletal giant, that is adorned in this this very peculiar like metal armor, but he's a very nice and down-to-earth giant. They ended up meeting him. He was absolutely humongous, and he serves a very big purpose within the whole entire of the story, of this arc. But sort of meeting him and this such a tall giant, and when you actually met him for the first time, he was actually battling against another giant that was about the same size as him. So you guys were sort of underneath their feet while they're fighting in this ruined city, just sort of going around and trying to bob and weave out of the way of all this carnage that's sort of happening, which you guys are like the size of their toenail. It's like absolutely crazy. To sort of, you know, too. It was, but it was the whole thing of like, oh my god,
I also remember we didn't know who Baldwin was.
No, at the time you guys didn't know who he was. Thought he was, so when you thought he was bad. Yeah, you thought he was evil because he looked like a skeletal. But there's a whole sort of story behind that, which we'll get onto later on.
Yeah.
But it was this whole initial impact of, oh, this is massive. This is huge. There's a 3,000 foot tall skeletal giant that is above us, and there's another giant that's about the same height that's fighting him, and there's so much carnage that's going on.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening with you, but was more like you're just trying to get out of the way of it all. But it's so big that it's crazy. It's almost like the what's the best way to kind of put it? Almost like Jack and the Beanstalk type dealio, where there's like this giant. It's that sort of type of atmosphere. It's like, oh, this is huge. But yeah, I'll let you continue on with that. Sorry, I just wanted to sort of input with
the story in this arc is huge.
It is huge. Yeah, it's
in both a literal sense and a thematic sense.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
Yeah, as Adam said, we were told by the
council.
The council
Before we got sent in.
Before we got sent here to go find Bawaldwin, and we're like, who is this Bawaldwin? And then we discover that he's a 3,000 foot tall giant skeleton who just loves to fight. And he also tells us how he got, well, why he was created.
Yeah.
And also that he is testing his own skill against all these other giants, while also trying to create more Earth by fighting these giants and cremating them.
Yeah.
And he tasked us to go find his sword because he lost a 3,000 foot tall sword.
Yeah, which
I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
He tells us
No,
go
Karen,
ahead.
sorry. No. I was gonna say I'll dive into him a little bit more if you wanted to, because I mean it is like at the end of the day, I did design him, so it's sort of like I could dive into him a little bit more, because I mean at the end of the day, you guys are players, you've sort of come across him, but sort of I guess being I'm not sounding as an arsehole or anything, but being the DM, you've kind of got to the ins and outs of stuff, especially like when you guys play. When, say, if you go, oh, do you remember that time we did this? And then I've got to be trying to remember everything from the world, if that makes sense. So having that world knowledge is, yeah, you know the struggle, Kian. But having that world knowledge just there implanted in your brain is so useful to just have. Especially when, like, say you guys you go, oh, let's go and visit this guy that we've not seen for like 30 sessions, and I'm there like, yeah, what did that guy sound like? What was his? Who's that? What did he do? Oh yeah, it's having that sort of inbuilt world knowledge. But anyway, it's besides the point. But yeah, Bawaldwin, you found out was a very, very decent and down to earth and really nice guy. And like you said, he lost his sword, which is this giant, humongous greatsword that he somehow managed to lose within
I say
the
lost in a joking matter, because he tells us to, hey, go find the sword. It's at the front.
Yeah, go find it. I don't know where it is. Go find it.
Well, he did know where it is.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he did. Yeah, he did know where it was. He did. Yeah, he did.
He was lost in a joking way.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, it's in the furnaces." Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's somewhere there.
3,000 foot skeleton, go get it then.
Yeah, he's like, I've got other stuff to do. Yeah, I think it's because he was more concerned with what he actually his main purpose that he had.
Yeah.
So I'll dive into his backstory a little bit, just to give a bit of context of who he is. So this 3,000 foot tall skeletal giant was, well, and still is, a staple mark within the plane of the Earth plane, Kalmandur, which he served a whole entire role, which was he was placed by a god called Ao, and Ao is this higher god, one of the ancients that I've put forward in the introduction. But he was placed in the Earth plane to protect it and to keep it going. So within the actual Dungeons and Dragons lore wise, this is not how it works. This is not how the Earth Plane works, but this is my own interpretation of how the Earth Plane works within my world. So he was placed there a very, very long time ago with a bunch of other giants that were the same as him. Not exactly like clones, but just basically other versions of these giants. AO created a race to be able to populate the Earth Plane. In doing so, he also did it in a kind of villainous way by placing a bunch of them and saying, right, fight to the death. And the last one standing will become my champion. So every single one of them fought against each other. All of the giants. That's why there's hundreds of bones and giant sort of ruins of these beings just about the Earth Plane. But Bawalwin was the one that stood on top of it all. Afterwards, he was victorious and became AO's sort of like main chief warrior, I guess you could say, and disciple. After being sort of proven his worth, AO granted him with an eternal task. He gave him eternal life to never ever die, never age, nothing. He could just live forever. But the main task that he was given was to be able to keep the Earth Plane running and from never dying. So he proceeded with this task, which his task was literally to kill other giants, which were created by AO. So AO would create these giants and put them in the Earth Plane for Bawalwin to fight. He would have to go around the Earth Plane to fight them, which he did. He went round and fought them, which is when you guys first met him. That was when he was fighting one. So he fought one, but because Bawalwin can never die, he could just kill them anyway. So no matter what he does, he literally could just kill anything because he can't die pretty much. So he kills this giant, and what he does is he then, rather than sort of destroying the body of it, he carries the whole entire body all the way to the furnaces, I believe, or he goes somewhere. I can't remember exactly where he goes with the body, but he goes somewhere with the body of this giant and sort of molds it down and creates more of the Earth Plane itself to be able to run. And it's like sort of like fuels its engine of the actual plane itself, of the whole world. It's sort of almost very similar. I took inspiration from Dark Souls, to where you have to sort of rekindle the fire in a very similar manner to that. He basically would kill these giants and take them to almost, in air quotes, a bonfire, but it's not, and sort of mold them down into more of the Earth Plane, so it would stop the plane from dying out. And that was his sole purpose. That is all he did, and he's done that for hundreds and thousands of years. He's done it for God knows how long, but that is Bawalwin, and that is what he did. And he doesn't really speak to a lot of people or sort of get it out and about, so sort of meeting you guys was a very big first for him. He's always sort of just stuck to his job, and that's all he's done, and he's never really done anything else for hundreds and thousands of years. But that's Bawalwin, sort of a bit of a backstory and a history on him.
Yeah. Okay. Big tough guy.
Yeah.
We definitely did not abuse his power to get some free diamonds at all.
Oh no, you did not.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you did.
Let's see. From there, again, he asked us to go to the furnace. On our way to the furnace, we stumble upon Annex College.
Annex's college. Yeah, so because he said that he could take you so far, didn't he? He said that he could take you so far, and then that's as far as he could take you because he's got a job to do. Yeah, so he dropped you off on this mountainside, and on the mountainside was Annex's college, which you didn't know what it was at the time. He didn't say, but he sort of just dropped you off there, and you guys entered in, which I'll let you carry on with that.
Yeah. So, let's see. Inside this college, which also, it was a fun, like, little segment. Like,
yeah,
a bit of
I did
school
like
life.
this. Yeah, bit of school life. Obviously, big revelation for Kello being.
True. Yeah.
And I cannot.
Big revelation for Kello. And you still has the stone, right?
Believe so.
Annex's
Yeah.
Believe I
tablet.
do.
Yeah.
I
So
have to check
Yeah.
my character sheet
in
for
this,
Yeah, I think you actually do
Okay.
have it still. I think I have seen it on there. I know one of you
but
has
in this
it.
college, we discovered a Warforged, our very first Warforged NPC.
True.
Called Quill, and he's essentially the assistant of Anik, and he kind of runs the place. If I remember, was he shut down or was he just? No, he was completely clean, right?
What, Quill?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
So-
what state we found him.
So you found him. He wasn't necessarily in the best of shape. I think he was more like
Mm,
he was starting to like sort of rust away, and he wasn't being
Yeah,
kept
I think you've
properly.
been fixed it up.
Yeah, you ended up
Yeah.
fixing him up a little bit, because he's not sort of seen any like he's not really been doing much for a long time. You sort of
Yeah.
fixed him up a little bit, and allowed him to sort of get on his feet and sort of communicate with you guys. But yeah, so Quill is this Warforged. He was very well dressed. He had this sort of monocle that he had on one side. On his eye, and he was such a fun NPC to design. But
Cool.
he was almost like the guide and the sort of, in air quotes, the protector of the college, but he didn't really
Yeah.
protect much. But yeah, he basically kept the college going, even though it's pretty much abandoned now, but he still stays there and serves his purpose. And Anik was a Dragonborn, that is no longer alive, but his spirit stays within the whole college itself. His spirit lingers and stays sort of bound to it, almost as like a magical bound to the actual college itself.
Right.
Which is sort of how he still lives, with his spirit still there. But yeah, that's sort of a bit of context on that. You guys entered in, didn't you? And then sort of fixed up Quill, and Quill gave you almost this
did.
bit of a tour. This bit of a tour that around the whole entire college, sort of going around and finding different things.
Yeah.
Didn't you end up finding you found some like symbols and stuff, didn't you? Like around some of the rooms and things around the actual college itself.
Yeah, I
yeah.
believe that was after.
That was after. Yeah, you ended up you came back afterwards, didn't you? On your sort of way out, you came back and sorted all of that out. But Quill sort of takes you around. You get to meet him a little bit, and you sort of flew around and whatever, and sort of got your bearings. I think you did stay the night in the college, I believe.
Yeah.
You sort of stayed your night in the college and whatever, and then you ventured out the next day, didn't you?
Yeah. He does inform us that there are other colleges in the other planes as well.
Oh right, yeah. He was like, in each
Yeah.
of the planes there was the water plane
The elemental
college and
planes does
yeah,
have their own has their own
Yeah.
their own college.
with
Yeah.
their own masters allegedly, but whether they're
Yeah.
still kicking is another question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the question.
He informs us the college was built 300 years ago by Anik. Anik died 235 years ago. All that timeline wise. This is all
Can't
like
remember the
one of the
college
few
itself.
times-
Like, go on.
sorry. This is like one of the few times where Landon is like able to actually research stuff. Because there's actual like a place of knowledge here now.
Oh,
yeah,
true,
it was it was the first
So-
time that you, or all of you really, sort of had the ability to sort of go through the library and research and have a look at things,
Yeah.
and sort of dive into little areas of knowledge and things and what books that they had there.
Yeah.
Because of how old the place is, it sort of has this wide collection of various things that Anik liked to collect, and some of the students as well that were here
Yeah.
collected.
Yeah, we searched up stuff for curses We searched up
Yep.
stuff for the Ring of Souls that we have,
Yeah,
and then we discovered
did,
there's
didn't you?
another 2 like cursed rings of this trifecta rings.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Big
forgot
Harry
about-
Potter vibes.
Yeah. So
Big Harry
you
Potter vibes.
you discovered that there's this whole like not like prophecy, but this whole sort of initial thing about where there's these different types of magic items that were all like created for their sole purpose. Like the soul ring was one of them, and it was part of like this trio of 3 that sort of worked together, I guess.
hmm
Which I can't remember if you. I think you found out the fact that they can actually all work together. I believe.
The rings of Merkul
Yeah.
bring 1 Bane ring. Evil ring turn wearer into skeleton. If mastered, can turn back and
Top
forth.
quality notes.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That is.
Evil
Top
ring
quality
to
notes.
person.
Yeah. So there was, I believe, there was 2 rings and a headpiece and a crown. I believe, if I'm right.
3 rings.
Oh, is it just 3
that
rings?
were part of a headdress.
Yes. So there was 3 rings that are part of a crown. Yes. That is it. Yeah, so there's 3 rings that are part of the soul ring was one of them, but there's these other 2 that are part of the crown, and they all create to make something. I could not remember for the life of me what it was. Let me see if I have anything in my notes.
While you
if I have
search up.
anything. I'm trying
There's
to
also
remember
the soul
exactly.
ring, and also the Black Whisper ring, which is lost to myth, but it is said that it was
Oh, I have a
one
picture
of the causes of the cursed plague that fell on Belseas.
Yeah, and at that time we had no idea what any of that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time you had no idea what that meant.
No, see, where's that? Curse?
Yeah, what's
Nah,
that?
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think we actually, when you like summarize it, I don't think we actually did a lot in the college apart from
No, I'm
I
just
think it was
having a
just
look for my
more-
notes.
it's very much like
Um,
RP, I think, between Keller and Anik.
Yeah, it was
Sort of
mainly
being
like an RP.
Whoa, a Dragonborn, even though you're dead. Wow. And then, yeah, I think. Well, I enjoyed the Earth plane combat. I think combat in this plane was pretty fun. We got to fight the Black Hand for the first time. But yeah,
Yeah, just having a look.
This is like the first time where Landon like full on starts tinkering with his gun.
Yeah, so
and the
so what I
sending
have.
stones.
Sorry. What I have is I have like the different rooms. So there was the like on the campus grounds. There was the library. There was the accommodation room. There was the gardens that were outside, and the storage and archives area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe. I'm just trying to see if I can find anything note-wise which resembles the. I can't seem to find anything.
I mean, either way, we have just spent half an hour talking about half of the arc. We should
Yeah,
probably
true.
move on.
Yeah, we probably should.
We
Yeah,
can
we
probably move
probably
on.
should. Yeah.
So yeah, from there, we get directions, and this makes us pass through. Let's see, was it an arc? Like a specific like.
Yeah. So
Archway?
you
The
so you guys went
archway.
out of the gardens, and there was this walkway that sort of like led out
Yeah.
of the actual college,
Yeah.
which you just followed. You ended up just following this
Yeah.
walkway. Because I think you asked Quill for directions and said like, look, can we go this way? And he
Yeah.
said, yeah, you can go that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you followed that direction, sort of traveling for quite a few days. But you came across this archway, didn't you?
Yeah.
This sort of archway and like a
we-
guard, like this outside sort of like almost garden-esque area, which was quite
Yeah.
strange for the type of area that you were in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you sort of talk about that.
Thank you. So, passing through the archway, Kelu had a vision about his
Yeah, you
family
did.
and
Yeah,
about
you did.
Yeah.
yeah, a vision of his home being attacked and his mother dying,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was rough.
Wow.
And then
that
me and
was-
Rob were like talking. This seems like to be from the past because there's like Dragonborns too, but that's like a separate vision in the same vision though. which is
Yeah.
interesting.
I think it was sort of like
Mm.
a timeline of like there were other Dragonborns, and then it sort of skipped, and then
Yeah.
the Order started to get attacked by the now we know Black Hand, which thanks Mr. DM, I wrote a lovely lovely. My parents are still alive. They're in a little house and dead.
No
killed
longer
off.
anymore.
So
Yeah.
Kelu,
sorry.
obviously, I think for him emotionally, this sort of sent him off completely leftward. He was very much fixed on like, I need to revive my kin, and now
Yeah, I
this
need.
has happened.
Yeah.
It was very much like, I've completely neglected protecting the ones that were already alive.
Yeah.
So he almost felt like a sense of like guilt for not being there.
Yeah, and I think that also
Also-
added to sort of like the area that you guys were in. It was almost
Yeah.
like you wanted this urgency to get home, but you didn't know how. And it's this sort of like you're
Yeah,
stuck in
I-
this place.
I think that made it worse for Kelu, is because he had no
Yeah, it
idea how
did.
to get out, but he needed to. So I think
Yeah.
there was that sense of urgency, and I think it got to his head a little bit, as
Yeah, I
you'll
think
see
it
in some of the following arcs.
Yeah, definitely.
So from there, we traveled to a little old town called Cleois. It's by the furnace. It's a little ragtime mining village. It was a little.
I did
it was
like-
a little bit of
I
fun.
did like this.
I
place. It
love
was
the
cool.
little, yeah. I
Yeah.
love the old west aesthetic it had.
Mm.
Yes, I do. I think I could describe from the image, the reference image that I had, because I do actually have a reference image for it.
It was good. All I
Uh,
remember was the
I'm
town
trying to
hall,
find it.
and then us just, going full western on the town hall,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
kicking in the door, the sunshine in the back.
Yeah. So
I don't
it's
think we need to lay into the description, but basically,
yeah.
imagine combination of old west fantasy,
Yeah.
like
Middle
the
of
second
nowhere
you imagine,
village. With one
yeah,
strip.
the second you imagine a little town with a tavern with swinging barstool doors, you got it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Old
It was
western town.
because the furnace itself, where it's located within the earth plane, it's quite close to the elemental plane of fire. It's like on that sort of borderline in between the fire plane and the earth plane. So most of the sort of the rocky terrain turned from this grayish rock to almost like this desert style sort of like sandstone and sort of this orangey type stone instead. Which it became more like a desert like, which was really interesting. And most of the sort of the buildings itself within the town was mostly built by dwarves. Most dwarves lived here and sort of did on like mining expeditions and things. But it was a really cool looking town. Most of the sort of the sides of the rocks and the faces were sort of covered in these buildings that were sort of linking between different areas with like bridges and stuff, like stone bridges and things. And there was a bit of I believe there was a bit of a lake that sort of like ran through it almost, sort of leading out.
Mhm.
But yeah, you guys really enjoyed it here. It was quite friendly, and it's
Well,
one of
the-
the most. It was the only civilized place that you sort of came across.
Well,
Yeah.
the
So-
one session that we were here, I think we enjoyed the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Not even a session.
I don't
We
even think it was a
got
session.
there,
No, I don't think it was. No.
we
That town existed
We
for a
got
session as
there.
well.
and we went.
Yeah, that sound
immediately-
existed for a session.
True.
Yeah.
It existed and got destroyed immediately.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So we got there, we did our own little thing, asked for directions, and then we went our way to the furnace. There we found out, holy shit, the Black Hat is here. and they're trying to release the essence that's inside Baldwin's sword, and they're also talking about the Stone of Convergence.
Yeah, this is when
Yeah,
you
I
first
think we
learn
were-
about the Stone of Convergence and everything. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the council mentioned it, and we were like, "Oh, cool, stone. That sounds powerful."
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but like the whole Black
then-
Hand and everything, and all of
and
that.
then
This
we
is where you
rock
sort of
up.
like first.
We actually stealth. Bear in mind, we
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
did a stealth.
Yeah,
which
you
I'm
actually did it.
proud
So.
of. And then we overheard. I think we overheard that they were on about like the Stone of Convergence is like the like end goal for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we were like, "Oh shit, this is bad. Probably shouldn't let
Yeah.
them have that." But we have no idea.
I enjoyed
And
doing
then
the combat for this as well. Actually, to be fair.
Yeah, it
was a fun
Because
combat.
it was, yeah, it was a fun combat, but because the sword was actually found, it wasn't just lying on the ground. It was this giant sword was actually embedded into a dead giant that Baldwin killed a long time ago, but just never
Right.
actually got round to actually putting his body into the furnace yet. I think he maybe just sort of left it there and said, "Oh, I'll come back for it later," but forgot his sword.
Yeah.
And in the actual, like the very hilt of his sword is this giant red gem, this like sort of ruby gem, and held with inside that ruby gem is one of the essences of Bane. So Bane was sort of trapped there and left within his sword. I think it was a gift from one of the gods to basically say like, yeah, keep this sword like at your hilt and don't sort of leave it, even though he did by accident. Lol.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice job, Baldwin.
yeah, but he's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, he's an old
But
man.
yeah, so the Black Hand went to the sword to talk to one of Bane's essences, to sort of try and get information out of him. Yeah, this is one thing that you guys still don't really understand, which I haven't actually explained anyway, which I'm not going to because it will ruin the story. But one thing that you guys never really actually understand, and you still are questioning today, from this moment actually, is why is the Black Hand talking to Bane when you figured out that Vim,
true.
that Zvim is actually almost like
Trying to take his position.
trying to take his position against his
Yeah.
father, which is Bane. So that's which you guys know. But it's one of the sort of the weird sort of things of why are they actually talking to him. So it's this weird sort of like thing that happened there, and I still think it's like sort of on your mind as if to be like, why is the connection? Like, why are they talking to him when they're enemies? In a sense. So it's this sort of very strange sort of going on.
I think at this
which
moment
still
we were
hasn't
just
been
like,
explained.
oh, Bane, bad god, essence.
Yeah,
God of
yeah.
Convergence, cool. This is all sounding very bad. We should probably do something
Yeah.
about it. The
Yeah,
stealth
definitely.
mission went out the window. Combat ensued against
Yeah,
the Black Hand, which was
Yeah.
very interesting. I thought
Yeah.
the combat
Of
and
course,
the models
mid combat.
were good.
Yeah, mid combat. Of course, they fucking leader decides to just throw all his things out and just release the essence of Bane,
of Bane. Yeah,
which turned out
he
to
ends
be
up
a
sort of like
huge
sacrificing himself to
feat.
to release him.
Yeah. And from there, pure chaos ensued.
This was fun.
Baldwin came back to confront
Yeah.
this essence and fought each other.
Yeah,
The little town had to be evacuated, but most of it, everything was destroyed, and most of them
Yeah,
died.
tell
But we
you.
were able to get a
Yeah.
few people out.
yeah,
And
Six
then we
survivors.
just kept,
We had
yeah,
6 out of the
Yeah.
town.
yeah.
Nice. Nice.
It
Yeah.
was definitely something.
yeah. It was definitely something. With this sort of this battle between Baldwin and this giant sort of essence of Bane. Yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
Even what sort of like, because as you were sort of like collecting all the people that you could while you were sort of getting out, and the whole entire town being destroyed behind you, with the, as you said, you had 6 sort of survivors. As you were leaving and trying to get away from everything and sort of head back the direction you came from into the college, You guys were just sort of like in the distance. You could still hear them battling and sort of like the rumbling of the actual like attacks, and they were just still fighting the whole entire way back
Yeah.
to the village. Like for days, they were just battling it out. There was no like you could just see off into the
Stopping them.
distance. Yeah, there was no stopping. It was just this whole battle that was just happening, and it could still be happening now. If you
True.
don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, from there we went back, retraced our steps all the way back to the college. And was it Quill that gave us the doorway back to our own plane?
I believe so, or we ended up going back to the City of Jewels, I believe.
You did
and
go
then
back to the
there's a
City of Jewels.
teleporter in there. I think he just
Yeah.
gave us like a key for the actual like material plane.
Yeah, you did.
Cool.
So you guys, when you went back there, you left the survivors in the college and for Quill to sort of look after them.
That's someone else's
Um,
problem.
Yeah, you basically like, yeah, we've got more bigger things to sort of deal with. So you guys, I think you went out to the garden. You found there was a rock that was out there. I think you guys
Quinville.
travelled on the rock, didn't you?
Yeah,
back.
Quinville.
To the
Yeah.
yeah, Quindril, that's it. Yeah, that telepathically talked to you, which was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
We asked him to take us to the
Yeah,
thing.
so he took you back to the City of Jewels, which you did, yeah.
And I think, yeah, not really much else. I mean, we run into those Genassis, the stone Genassis, but
Yeah.
they turn out
That
to
was
be
all the
anything
way.
but, like nomads.
That was at the very beginning of the arc.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because
Yeah.
no, the reason I remember because you went when you were in the City of Jewels before you left, before Bewilderment took you. You found that there was this cave, and in this cave was this sort of like this broken portal.
Yeah, I think that's what.
This like portal, yeah, and then he sort of like gave you like the final piece for it. I think Quill did, sort of like gave you the final piece for it,
Yeah.
and that's how you sort of you left.
Yeah.
But from looking at what my notes were, is that's what it says. So,
Mhm.
um,
Okay.
But yeah, that's essentially the end of this arc.
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
Got
much.
sent
And
Yeah.
for
Big skeleton.
big
City of
setups.
Jewels.
As for
College.
like where the characters are interpersonally or like mentally, Landon was in the rough.
I think we all were, to be fair. Apart
Yeah,
from
you
Rob.
all
We all
were.
were.
Well, Rob was feeling it, I think.
Yeah,
but also
there was only 3 of you at the time, wasn't there? So
Rob was having a great time.
Yeah.
yeah, Rob was having a great time.
Rob was like,
He was
dude, I'm
going
running
around
work.
flashing
I
stuff.
get to beat up a bunch of random rocks. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just beat
great.
up, like elementals and crap. Yeah.
While the remainder of Kello's lifelong family is dead. Landon is a bit overwhelmed with everything going on. The Black
Yeah.
Hand have become this prominent, deathly figure of world endingness. And we were like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. I probably should stop that.
I mean,
3,000-foot skeleton, what the fuck? Is it all a bit. The arc of overwhelming.
Yeah, it was.
this
Yeah,
should be.
it was. Yeah, I think involuntary travel fits more because you were just sort of put there and you had no way back.
Yeah.
But
right.
yeah, I think that's pretty much the end of that arc. So we'll move on to
It was kind
what
of like
happened
the.
next. I guess.
True. We shall move on. I think it's good because that involuntary arc, the involuntary travel arc, kind of led on. It was like the first inkling into like, oh, the Black Hand, and then the next one.
Yeah.
that we're going to kind of just fully set the tone. for the
Yeah, it
rest of
did.
the, so we go to the next arc, the Back to the Roots arc. This one was an interesting time for me as a player.
Yeah,
Um,
it was.
we head through
Well, I
that
mean-
hall
Yeah, you
in
did head for
the-
the pool. Yeah.
in the Earth plane, and we came out into the country/continent/kingdom of Ushana, which was far west of Malin. Very deserty, sand duney, classic
Southwest. Southwest.
southwest,
Southwest.
westerly.
Westerly of Malin.
Westerly, just west somewhere.
Yeah, it's sort of southwestish.
Anyway, southwesternly from Malin, we end up outside of Borussia. Borussia was mentioned by Landon here and there, as he's from there, which was nice.
Yeah.
Also, it was kind of like
back
a
to my town, well, city.
hometown, home city, back represent. We
Yeah, I'm
rocked up
gonna
outside, I believe, and it was starting to turn dusk. And towards the end, me and Adam sort of had a conversation towards the end of the involuntary travel arc, and I sort of said Kalu's morals are sort of getting a bit sort of selfish almost, and he's wanting to go home, whereas I know Landon and Rob will want to stay in Borussia, which fortunately, Kalu at that time picked up I believe it's the Wizard Initiate feat, which allowed him to learn
Yes.
the teleportation circle,
Teleportation circle, yeah.
which DM agreed that I would know the teleportation circle spell for my hometown. I'm like, well, not hometown, my sanctum, where my order was.
Yeah.
So Kalu left the party. And now if you're up to date with your episodes, you'll know he does come back. Don't worry. Don't stress.
Yeah, he does.
He does come back. However, me as a player took a step back that session. Rob and Landon unknowingly enter Borussia. Kalu sort of disappears into the night, leaves a note saying he's going to go home and sort things out. He'll be back soon. Landon and Rob enter Borussia, which unfortunately wasn't recorded, as it's probably my favorite all-time campaign moment of those two entering the city and trying not to pay the toll.
Yeah.
That was great. Landon was hidden under Rob's sort of jacket.
Yeah.
And Rob, being the very low charismatic talking person he is, could not talk his way through the toll. Anyway,
At all.
they get in somehow. Somehow they get in.
I
And
think
they
you ended
ended
up just paying the toll in the end.
I can't remember.
We did.
I can't remember.
did.
Yeah, you
I
just paid it in
remember
the
it was
end.
an absolute
You were just like,
shit
oh,
show.
screw it, we'll just pay it.
Just a shit show. As it should be with Rob. However, they got in. Get into Borussia, the city itself. Now, I mean, the both of you probably know the description better than me. Steampunky, super sort of sand dune-y picture, like your big grand sandstone cities with floating airships, balloon ships, that sort of vibe, but also very much divided in its culture of class, where you had the slums on the outer western side of
Yeah.
the city,
Yeah.
which housed most of the population, which were generally poor, and then you had the richer sort of middle class and upper class inside the city walls, which were not impoverished by yet another plaguing a city.
Yep.
I will say, Mr. DM, I think you need to invest in some healthcare in some of your cities, because that's like 2 plagues we've run on in 2 capital cities.
Well, yeah. But oh well.
But we find out, obviously, Landon's recent memory / inkling that his mother's still a bit ill. Landon's sort of main priority, I believe, was to find his mother and see how she is. However, didn't know where she lived, because it was sort of like
because
she could
we
have still been in
went
the same
back.
place. Or
She wasn't living in the same place. We went back to.
Yeah.
We had to sneak through. Did we sneak through, or did we like ask to pass? I think we asked to pass the gate dividing the slums with the city.
yeah,
And we got to my old place, and new people were living there. I'm like, yo, where's my mom at?
oh yeah. But
Uh,
I think they ended up guiding you there to
Yeah.
a new house, which I believe we had a name for, but I haven't got it wrote down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do.
Yeah, the new house wasn't actually in the slums. It was inside the actual city walls.
in the
But-
city, yeah.
Yeah,
which is
it was
good,
in the city.
which is good.
Yeah.
Landon and Rob end up getting in contact with Landon's newfound sister, who he had no idea existed.
Yeah.
Did you mention any character mentions?
Well, I believe we get to that after.
No,
Did that happen before?
that happened way before.
I don't think
never
did it?
mind. Yeah,
That
it-
happened
I-
as
it-
soon as we
It
got
must
in
have happened
town.
before then.
Oh, true. It was nighttime. Right,
Yeah,
go back,
yeah.
right, Go
Go
back.
back.
Get into the city. Get into the city. They go to the tavern. My bad. Once they get into the tavern, my sort of side character for the remainder while Kelly was off doing his things for a few weeks gets introduced. I begin to play. Shocker, I play another spellcaster. I begin to play a fella called Dante Calignus. Dante was the best way to describe my sort of inspiration from Dante was almost like a swindler with very charismatic traits, could talk his way through most things, but also had this sort of like good reason to do so behind it. Again, Dante had a family that existed. They weren't dead, surprisingly. His parents probably still alive. But Dante, black hair, very sort of like dresses up than what he actually is. Middle class, but dresses like a high class, even though it's tattered. He was I believe he was level 7 to 10, somewhere in that range. And he was playing a Pact of the Blade Warlock. Dante's sort of brief backstory, because it's not as relevant to the main story. He basically tried to find a curse that was on his daughter and find a sort of like a solution for it, and ended up going into a Anjuni temple and sold his soul to an unknown entity who promised that he would fix it. Dante since basically been swindling his way through jobs, trying to pay for medication to keep his daughter alive, and to pay his family through the harshness of Borussia's class system. And he just sort of bumbled onto the party. Obviously, a minotaur and a gnome walking into a tavern in the middle of Borussia was not heard of.
Yeah.
So he sort of saw an opportunity of interest, and also you guys were stacked to the brim with magic items, so I think he was interested in those more than anything.
Yeah.
And he introduced himself, and I think he sort of latched on and stuck with you guys to see where it would end up going. To which, fast forward, Landon tries to find his mother, not there, ends up in a new house in the city, up to date. Lovely.
We do.
Landon's
Before that,
Don't I missed a thing? I missed another thing. Go on.
the murder
Go ahead.
investigation.
Go ahead.
And
Oh,
us-
shoot, yeah, there's murder that was going on.
Funny,
Gee,
yeah.
there was so much
And
going on.
us finding about a scar.
Yeah.
Oh, right, the bandit chief that was
Bandit chief.
sort of the one that was being blamed for murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you came
We-
across that there was this restaurant, wasn't there? That was
Yeah.
that sort of had an incident where someone was murdered, and it was one of the high sort of high captains of the guards that were in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Was murdered sort of off duty while sort of having dinner with his wife. Was murdered during this sort of just outed, like literally just out in the middle of the open in the restaurant, just murdered completely by somebody that was cloaked. And with no sort of time to react to it, or whatever, the person just sort of got away with it. But yeah, the sort of these like murders and happenings was sort of like happening around the city, not too frequently, but they were. You guys dove into it a little bit, but didn't fully pursue everything that you could have done. But it was more, you had sort of other things that you wanted to do, but it was
I think
more.
we had more pressing matters at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It was more sort of just like an extra detail that just sort of to sort of give the city a bit of life and something that was sort of going on in the background, which you actually found out was something to do with something bigger
Mm.
later on. But yeah.
Yeah, murder mystery.
Yeah,
There's
murder
probably going to be a lot of things because I'm looking through the notes of it, and it is a lot. A lot happens in this arc.
Yeah, a lot
There's
happens in this
A lot
arc.
of characters that are introduced that stay with us for a long time, and a lot of important people that we should probably dive into quite a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, Landon reunites with his family, finds out he has a sister called Diana. His mother, lovely Miss Marigold, who Kelu treats with absolute respect and loves her to pieces.
Yeah, she's a woman.
What a woman. What would we do without her? Our rations would be dry.
Truly.
Yes.
She was ill with sewer rot.
Yes.
That was the sort of like low standing
Joint,
like, yeah, very common in the slums, lower classes, things like that, because obviously medication wasn't as easily accessible. I think this is sort of where Landon begins to, well, from my sort of point of view as a player, sort of started to ease up in terms of feeling at home again, but also there was like this unresolved conflict that you could see from like the outside world, you know, because there was this like, oh, I'm back home, but should I be, sort of thing. That's what it kind of felt like to me anyway. But anyway, sewer rot gotta get fixed. That's the next big issue. Whilst Keller is off doing his things back home, which we'll dive into a little bit when it becomes prominent. We end up speaking to a doctor, Dante, Rob, and Landon, speaking to the doctor in Borussia, who says that she needs a rare plant provided by druids who sort of, I think she was missing like a shipment from them.
Yeah.
I think they weren't able to keep up with the demand, and she wanted to know what was going on, and she would pay them. I think she gave us the money to actually just go get it ourselves.
Yeah.
Gave us
Yeah,
directions
she did.
to a druidic camp just outside of the city. A few days travel, I think. And I believe we just set off straight away. Dante went home and said, look, I'm going back. I'm going to make some money. It's coming home. It's happening.
Yeah.
And they all set off. They went off to find this druidic camp and began to speak to their leader, Horik.
Just to give a bit of context, sorry, the doctor's name was called Valerie.
Yeah.
That's her name.
Again.
Yeah, there's
Not a
so
clue.
many names.
Not a
many
clue.
things, yeah.
Anyway.
But you went to a camp named Camp Grove, and the clan name is called Crescent Moon, and you talked to Horik Morwin, a halfling.
And he basically said, look, we'll give you the plant. We just have a bit of a kobold issue, which all of our faces sort of went, great, more stuff to do. Dante was all down for it. He was like, cool, we're going to get a plant, we're going to get paid. It's a big day for him. He gets to do some cool stuff. I think he also just sort of felt like he wanted to test out what he could actually do since being cursed, or like selling his soul. So we end up finding out that there's also a bounty on a purple worm. Well, I think before we left for the druidic camp, we found out there was like rumors on a bounty board of a purple worm called the Gnawing Hunger, just plaguing outside of Borussia. So that was
up in the
sort of like,
desert.
yeah, at level 10, I think we were sort of like, shit, probably should avoid that. Probably not a good thing to be bumping into. But we sort of had it in the back of our minds that, you know, if it did stumble across, we would probably try it, see how it goes. Who knows? Kobolds ended up obviously trying to figure that out and getting rid of those, we begin traveling, I believe it was northeast, towards some ruins of a town that was sort of cleared out recently, that was abandoned. And we had to sort of dig through the rubble of the old house that showed positive signs that it was a kobold attack. You could see sort of like the under caverns and the tunnels and all that, and the makeshift spears and arrows all about that showed that it was a kobold attack, and it was sort of like an overwhelming of the village and caught off surprise. Interestingly, we tracked the kobolds down to their sort of cavern, their hometown cavern, and we end up sneaking in, surprisingly. Doesn't happen a lot.
Yep. Nope.
And as we sneak in, we find a humanoid sat on a throne, which, as a player and XDM, kind of knew in the back of my mind, probably a dragon in here somewhere. Kobolds have sort of got that sort of background to them. And there's a humanoid on a throne. So, completely threw me off.
Yeah.
And as we began to talk to the humanoid in private, we find out that he's actually a lost druid who isn't supposed to be there and really wants to leave, but can't because the kobolds trust him to be their king. And he now has to lead this band of kobolds wherever they decide to go. So good old Malcolm, the lovely random druid.
Good old Malcolm.
Level 3 druid. Chilling with some kobolds. Thought to be dead in the druid camp. We decide that we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We are going to convince Malcolm to convince his lovely little tribe of kobolds to fight the purple worm in the middle of Borussia. Just in the random sand dunes outside, and lead a good 40 to 50 strong kobold army against this purple worm, which was a great idea, might I say.
Fantastic idea, yeah.
I think this was one of our best ideas.
It was.
Yeah.
It was absolutely
Amazing.
one of our best ideas.
I think we ended up taking the kobolds out, traveling with them, and heading out towards. I think we began to just track the purple worm at that point, because I can't remember, where was the plant? Was it sort of the? Oh, it was in the druid. Sorry, I've just completely lost my train of thought. The druid's got the plant. We're going to kill the kobolds. Gotcha. Yeah. So we've said to Malcolm, stop attacking the druid camp. You know, stop trying to get their attention. Make the kobolds stop, and then we'll kill the purple worm. 2 in 1 stone. Keep the kobolds happy. They can go live back wherever they were, and no issues there. At that point, Kelu begins to return to the group. It's probably been about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 weeks-ish since Kelu had left, around that time. If that's right? 2 weeks-ish?
Yeah.
Ish? Around then.
Yeah.
So, whilst they're having the time of their life in Borussia, killing purple worms, convincing kobolds to join a cause, and ultimately we've got a cool side character that we're relying on for the final fight in that little kobold group. Kelu had ended up going back home, which me and Adam ended up doing 1-to-1. It was sort of a very, I don't know, it was a very emotional journey for me as a player. Obviously, going back, I sort of had to get into the mindset of, like, everything is gone. Everything that I sort of knew about home, family, tradition has just been wiped out completely, and there's nothing left. So there was sort of like, for Kelu, I sort of thought, like, this is it now. Like, I've got to do something about it, or he's going to sink down and not rise to the occasion. Kelu ends up going back. He ends up He learns whilst he's there that the Black Hand had somehow dug their way from ground up the mountain, and sort of bypassed the wards that way, and ended up digging in and sending a mass army into the sanctum, which had completely wiped out, I believe, the remaining 7 dragons of the order
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
So 7 ancient dragons. It's a big ass army. That's kind of like a not a good moment.
Yeah.
He finds his mother dead, as envisioned in the vision that he had in the Earth plane.
Mm-hmm.
He finds several other dragons sort of littered about, and a lot of dead Black Hand, which sort of made him feel a bit of pride that they didn't go out like sleeping, but they took a few down with them. Weirdly, Kellu did not find his father. Kellu initially did a search around and couldn't find his father, who was at that time the sort of leader of the Order of the Draconic Wisdom. As Kellu's sort of going around trying to sort of piece together what had happened, recollect memories, sort of try and fix up what he could, his sort of patron, the one that he sort of looks up to within the Order of the Draconic Wisdom, Asgaroth, shows up. I don't know if you'd like to give a sort of overarching little summary about Asgaroth, about who he is.
I mean, I can. Yeah, so I have briefly explained him in the introduction, which if you haven't listened to already, go and listen to. But Asgaroth is one of the Ancients. The Ancients are basically the first ever gods that were ever created. They created everything within that existence, and sort of, followed time itself. Asgaroth and a bunch of these Ancients sort of work together to create everything. But Asgaroth is known to be sort of the god of the god of the material plane. Is mainly sort of his purpose, really. But he's also because one of his sort of first beings that he ever created was dragons. Dragons have been pretty much been there from the get-go. They've been sort of in different realms and things. But he sort of created a version of himself, which he is a dragon. He is a very ancient dragon, is his form, but he wanted to create vision, sort of a race of his own, which that's where the dragons come from, is they all sort of come from him, his creation. But yeah, he's an amazing god. He's never done anything to really harm anybody. He's always wanted to better the world. He's always had this sort of vision to be able to sort of better the world in any way he can. He had a lot of allies, but some people also didn't agree with his views because he's quite strongly opinionated. But yeah, his look of what he looks like is, I think when he first met you, he was in his Dragonborn form, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, which because Dragonborns, or dragons entirely, they have their scales are coloured, representing each of their sort of their bloodline or their sort of their type of dragon. But Asgaroth himself doesn't have one. He is like the all god, all father of all dragons. So his scales are multicolored. They're sort of these almost I don't know what's the best way to sort of describe them, but they sort of ripple in different effects of different colors, almost like rainbow like, but sort of off the scales and move sort of with the scale. It's kind of very magical looking, but his whole entire scale and body looks like that. But yeah, when you first met him, you were sort of baffled, really, because you've never met him before. You've looked up to him and whatever, and sort of prayed to him slightly, but never actually like met him or anything.
Yeah, I think the whole meeting with Asgaroth was sort of like a step forward in terms of hope for Kellu. It was sort of like
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
he's shown himself to me. that must mean
I think-
something pretty
Yeah.
prominent.
I think this isn't it
Um,
where he also says to you, like, literally, you are the last. Like, he literally says to you,
Yeah,
like, you are
that's
the last. Yeah.
that's yeah. I think he begins to describe that's it. Like the Order of the Draconic Wisdom's dead. It's done for. You're the last of the Order. It's sort of like up to you now. There's no
Yeah.
other Dragonborns. There's no other way to create Dragonborns, because the way I've sort of envisioned Dragonborns being created is it's not sort of like a Dragonborn fucks a humanoid. No.
No.
I think the way we sort of agreed it happens is sort of like it's a collection of essences.
We
or like
know how
yeah.
it happened.
It's a collection of
know how it
magical
happened.
essences from a group of the group of dragons who sort of combine their sort of power to create a Dragonborn of. Yep.
In a
Yep.
bucket.
Yep. That's
Yeah, they
how
know.
Landon and Rob see it. However,
Yeah.
that's how Kelly was born and how
They
most of the
collect
Dragonborns back
all
in the
their
day.
coom
Yep.
and consolidate it in a
Yep.
bucket.
Yep. Yep.
A coom bucket.
No matter how many
Born out
times
of
Kalu has
No
tried to
matter how many
describe how it's
times-
created.
He
How
tried
he's
to
created.
explain it.
Yeah. That's how they see it.
We will always
way-
for you.
There's no more dragons for more Bukakis, okay? So no more
True.
Dragonborn happening. End the story.
End the story. End the story.
Oh, hey,
Um,
Kian.
Mm.
No pressure.
Yeah, just no pressure. Yeah, like
yeah,
you know,
no pressure.
Kalu's the last to live, don't die. So, anyway, Asgroth tells me I'm the last. Sad, depressing, although it's kind of like a big responsibility.
Mhm.
With that, I believe Asgroth grants me the scale.
Yes.
He grants me a scale from himself.
Yeah, he
as
rips
I'm
off his
last.
own scale in front of him. Literally one of his own scales. He just rips it off him,
Mhm.
which you were there like, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, he literally rips off one of his own scales and gives it to you. And I think he tells you to like replace it with one of your own.
Wait,
So you end
Was
up
a-
ripping out your own scale.
that was
Um,
it was like, as you'll notice in Keller's introduction, it's very like Viking ritual-esque, where they like, you know, sacrifice their arm or something for a god.
yeah,
Very
Yeah.
much like that. It was like literally ripping my scale off with a knife and replacing it with this now magical one, which, if you see in the later episodes, does really fucking cool stuff.
yeah.
Kellu sort of gets his final form, as you will, but I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it. Basically, he can change color. He can change into
Yeah.
different types of bones, and it gives him sort of different changes to his breath weapon and his ability, should you say?
Yeah.
With the scale, Asgroth then tells me, "Look, there's a secret chamber in the back that only people with the scale can access." So I go in and I find a book, a huge book called the
Mhm.
Book of Prophecies, which screamed out to Kellu because obviously he had a prophecy given to him at birth.
Yeah.
Inside the book, it's sort of, I believe you said it only revealed the pages that were relevant at the time, and that
Yeah.
further ones would show up if they needed to.
Yeah.
And in that book, there was a page that basically said that now Kellu was the last, he would be granted the title of the Prophet, which
Yeah.
meant absolutely nothing to him. He had no idea what that was. And that the Prophet was basically the highest rank dragon in the Order of Draconic Wisdom,
Yeah.
which makes sense because they're all dead. Which kind of confirmed that his dad kind of was, or going to. Which is kind of sad. However, I believe it said that the Prophet was the one to sort of imbue itself with the Stone of Convergence, which still don't know what that means. Still have no idea what that means. I just know Callow in some way has to do something with the Stone of Convergence. I'm sure things will get cleared up at some point, maybe episode 147 or something, you know.
Yeah,
So
probably.
stick around. finds the book, keeps the book, and begins cleaning up the sanctum for the 2 weeks. Begins to sort of funeral rite the bodies, and sort of generally just clean up the devastation and destruction from the sanctum to sort of make it not as it used to be, but kind of in a better state. I think during that time he finds his father sort of top peak, and that was sort of an emotional end to this sort of one-to-one session with the DM, and it was sort of like a passing of adulthood for Kalu. It was like his you're it now, make us proud, and it was a lot of responsibility just sort of thrown at Kalu. His father gave his sort of necklace, which shrunk down to Kalu's size, and he now wears that all the time as sort of like a resemblance of what's gone, but also a way to sort of look forward. There's a lot of as you'll find, Kalu's quite philosophical. He sort of like sees a lot of things in a certain way, and he'll be like, "That's fate. That's definitely gonna happen." That has. But yeah, Kalu cleans up, sort of takes some time to himself, realizes what has to be done, learns a bit more about his history in terms of the Rage of Dragons and things like that, but that can get brought up if it needs to during episodes. And he heads back to Borussia. No, he doesn't. He doesn't head back to Borussia. He heads to Asilnor. Kalu heads to Asilnor to try and find how he can get to the guys in Borussia, because obviously he doesn't have a teleport for Borussia. And when he goes to Asilnor, this is where Kalu sort of finds out that the Black Hand is a lot scarier than it should be.
Yep.
Due to the issues in previous arcs, where Yelvin allegedly had killed his mother, a new family / person has taken the throne to enact a new age of cleansing, should we say.
Yeah.
We find out that Helviena, slightly mentioned in previous arcs, who is a Black Hand member / high-ranking person, has become the new ruler of Asilnor, which was a bit scary. All of the new guards had black armor. It was all very Black Hand-esque, and Kalu immediately went into "I don't want to be here" moment. He, I believe, buys the ritual teleportation circle inscription for Borussia.
No, you don't. Well, you do.
I do,
That's
but
when you first meet the
well,
guy.
I meet whoever the random genie dude was.
Yeah. So there's basically Kalu came across this alleyway, and within this alleyway was this door and this sign. So you sort of investigated a little bit, and you went in, and there was this weird character that offered you playing cards. And he said for you to pick one.
Playing cards.
Playing cards.
Yeah.
Which you knew what it was as a player. You knew what it was.
As a player, I knew exactly what it was, and I was so ready for the risk.
Yeah, it was a deck of many things, and you picked a good one, thank God. But yeah, he is a magical genie that goes around to different cities, and his shop basically just puffs into certain locations. Like, just go, pff, and it's just there. He describes it as it pops up to the people that need it the most. So it basically becomes relevant to whoever needs it the most, and he sort of goes to that location to them. But yeah, he is a magical shop of pretty much near enough everything. His magical shop just consists of so much crap. But yeah, you ended up talking to him. You took out one of his cards, which is what he deals out to anybody that comes into his shop. He says, take one of the cards, and sees the outcome. That is sort of like your entry pass to be able to sort of shop with him. So, which you did. You, I can't remember what you got from the card. I can't remember which card you picked.
I'm not sure. However, all I've got down is that he gave me the ritual teleportation circle to
Yeah, so you basically went into the back of his shop with him, sort of climbing over all of the different hoarded items that he has, and you sort of opened up a chest of a bunch of different scrolls that had various teleportation circles on, and I think he gave you like a 2-in-1 package. So you bought the Bell Seas one, and you bought the Borussia one as well.
By that, I end up rejoining the party back in Borussia, but my teleportation circle leads me to a random little tinkering shop in Borussia, which I was a bit confused about. And I end up bumping into the lovely Samuel, who is still looking around. He's sort of a good friend of the party now. But I'm sure Landon will explain Samuel later down the line when those two meet up. They end up meeting back up together, and it's quite a wholesome
moment.
Reuniting. Either way, big red tiefling tinkerer. You get the vibe. He's old-ish, got that sort of like dad feel about him. Sort of like looks after us, always knows exactly what we need. That sort of vibe. He ends up giving me, I believe, directions to where Landon and the party would be. I think it was some magical connection to something you'd made with him previously, and I think he sort of tracked you down that way with like a locate object or something enhanced. Either way, I end up rejoining the party with Dante and Kello at the same time, so that was a very confusing switching of accents, trying to play two characters at the same time. Very confusing, but fun.
Which we needed because Dante decided to.
Oh, yeah. Kello rejoins
his powers.
Dante
this
halfway through
is just
has
before,
well.
This is when you're traveling with the.
It was literally the night
cove.
before Kello comes back. Yeah, it was literally the night before Kello comes back. Dante decides to speak to the spirit that has granted him powers,
didn't you cast the spell where you can talk to other planes?
Contact other planes, I believe.
Other worldly beings or
Ask
whatever.
some questions, So I ended up trying to contact my god using that and went a bit insane. He basically confessed that he was an essence of Bane and had his daughter in the first place, and then consumed Dante. So he broke his pact with him and released the essence into wherever it's gone now. Which
in turn, because the essence was released from Dante because of the whole pact. The essence of Bane also saw that Rob had the hammer that was given to him by Voriak way back in the whole other arc. I can't remember what the arc was called. With Voriak.
Marvel City, I believe.
Yeah, with in the Marvel City. When the essence was released, he sort of went to Rob and said, "Look, you have my hammer," because Rob was cursed with this hammer to be able to sort of never let it go. So Essence of Bane sort of removed the curse from him and took his hammer back and left, and just immediately just left.
Nice of him. But then also we were about to fight a purple worm. Dante becomes an NPC, a literal half a CP commoner. With a non-packed longsword and nothing else. But Kellu's back, so it's fine. It's fine. It kind of balances out. Kinda. Anyway, next day, we end up finding the purple one. We end up killing the purple one. And I believe that is where Malcolm separates from the kobolds. Malcolm's like, look, I'm not here to rule you guys. It is what it is. I'm handing over rule to my general, who by far is my most reliable NPC right now, and I am banking on this little kobold to come save us in like the final episode. The general of the kobold army, who Rob decided to give a great sword +2.
Yep.
Or something like that, or +3 or something like that. Something stupid.
That's stupid.
Absolutely stupid. And we named him Gore, the destroyer of the gnawing hunger. And he was like named and like crowned king of these kobolds, and we've basically said, look, here's the sword, you can be king as long as when we call upon you, you'll come. And he like swore an oath and everything like that to us. So he went off in the distance with a great sword, which
He could not wield. He could not wield.
Yeah, as a adept
He
as you
wasn't
are
strong
at D&D, small characters cannot wield the greater weapons unless they are like they have something in their class to say so, like an artificer at like level 17 gets access to it, or whatever level it is. Either way, Gore goes off dragging this sword and vows that he will be able to carry it one day, which I'm hoping in the final fight he comes in like anime style, big sword, decked out in this tribal armor, and saves us. However, they go off, kobolds go off, they go back to their old home and begin to settle. Malcolm comes back with us to the druid camp, and we're claiming the plant. As we head back, we've got proof of the purple worm being dead. We've also got the plant. We all head back to Borussia. I believe Dante at this point begins to sort of distance himself from the group, being like, fuck me, what are these guys about? I just want to live a peaceful, normal life now.
Especially since, a bit of context, Dante's daughter was hella sick.
Yeah, she was
But
cursed
it wasn't
by...
through rot.
Yeah, she was cursed through the essence of Bane that he ended up making a pact with. He was deceived that making this pact would make her better, but in fact it was just making her worse. End up going back. We begin, this is where things start to get spicy. I believe we end up going back and handing in the bounty for the purple worm, the four of us. And this was with one of the several ruling families within Borussia. Borussia's sort of political structure, it's not ruled by a sort of king, it's ruled by, I believe it's 4 families. And those sort of different families of mostly halflings, I believe. Those sort of 4 families interact in different ways and sort of have their own sort of purpose. So there was like a financial one, there was like a political one, there was a military one, this, that, and the other. But we met with the financial one, the goods for killing the purple worm. As we head in, handing in the bounty, they were like, cool, well done, who are you guys? We didn't really want to give away details because Landon had a very big bounty on his head, as per his backstory.
Ooh.
And we wanted to give fake names and not really identify, which we did. But we ended up finding in that complex was a person who looked exactly like Yelvin, or was Yelvin, which kind of threw us off because we didn't know how Yelvin got there because he was in prison. So that sort of confused us a little bit, and that was sort of like a, wait a minute, something doesn't add up. So, claimed the bounty, left, began to discuss that. I believe Samuel and Landon reunite, which it was a very wholesome moment. So, Landon, you can describe Samuel if you do wish, now that it's sort of like coming back and you guys got reunited and it was all happy families again.
My notes.
Good old Samuel.
My fucking dumbass. Just close my notes. Where am
In
I?
short, Samuel is
So,
basically Landon's tutor, or was at
Yeah.
some point.
I mean,
from my
Okay.
from my backstory, after Landon finished or arrived to a small town up north, far up north, he met Samuel, and Samuel sort of kind of became a father figure to Landon.
Yeah.
Kind of taught him all he knew, spent time with him, all that, until one day he just up and disappeared. Until now, where he finally comes back. Samuel is a very tall tiefling, red skin, horns, tail, all the tiefling business going on. He is very, how do I describe him? Oh, he's intelligent. Intelligent. And very caring too. He's overall a great guy. Just pure daddy energy, you know?
Agreed with that. He literally looks after us all the time.
Yeah. Pure daddy energy.
He's great.
He's
Man.
He's fun.
We need to see Samuel again.
Yeah.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Self for future sessions. But yeah, little
Yeah.
reuniting of those two and
Mhm.
all of Landon's family. Landon's mother is cured, and she begins to sort of
Yep.
recover in bed. Landon sort of stays by her side, and I think we stay in the house with them. However, we begin to discuss with both Samuel and the group, consisting of Dante now as well, what the next plan was in terms of what Yelvin has with his involvement over here. And I think our sort of consensus was something doesn't add up. We know that there was some sort of mind control on him within Isilinior, or something wasn't adding up in Isilinior. So we're going to bust him out. Screw it.
Yeah.
Why not? But a full-on prison heist, bust down the walls. We're going to get in there, open him, and get him out straight away. Just teleport out with everyone.
Before you did that, though, didn't you? You, oh god, you found what should we call it? I can't remember the reason why, but you went back to the church Landon's friend was in, Boban.
Yeah. So
Well, we had to, didn't we? Because we were basically, Dante said, like, the best way to do this is to get help from other people, and we
Yeah.
needed help from other people.
Yeah,
And
so this is
you
where
knew-
you knew Boban.
Yeah.
So you wanted to go and speak to him.
mhm.
So yeah, you guys went to that, didn't you? You went out of the slums and went back there.
Yeah, Boban was like your contact for smuggling, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was your contact.
He
as
was
well.
he was the priest that basically looked over the old church in the slums. But he
Gotcha.
also had a bit of a smuggling business, trying to get food, supplies, medicine into the slums, and
See, from the city.
trying to get people out
Yeah.
of slums, all that.
Gotcha.
So-
So he was kind of a corrupt priest, but for a good reason.
But for a good
Yeah.
cause,
So-
yeah.
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 So it kind of balances
And-
out.
Mhm.
Yeah, Landon worked for him for a bit. That's how he and Landon know each other. A bit of a gripe from my DM.
Mm.
I distinctly remember mentioning that Boban was a dwarf with a multitude of tattoos in his
Yeah.
arms. and then and then you describe it as a halfling. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
He's
not
okay.
even a normal halfling,
my mistake.
a derpy, not derpy, but like a geeky halfling too. Like a tub.
sorry, that's my
Nah,
mistake.
you're good. You're good.
That's my
That was.
mistake.
It's funny now.
Yeah, that's my mistake.
I shut myself up back then because it's like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that. I didn't even realize
You're
it at
good.
all.
You're
It
good.
happens.
But
I'll
it
be
happens.
honest, it happens
It
so
does.
much.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, smuggling
yeah.
contract gets him.
Yeah, so you end up going there, don't you? You end up going back into the slums and going to
Yeah.
the church, but you find the church is like completely ruined.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you end up going down into the basement of the church, don't you?
Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
end up we find Boban,
Yeah.
and was he being like interrogated?
No, you found him, but he was all
Oh.
like tied up to a chair. When you
Yeah,
found him, he was like
Yeah.
underneath this ruined church, but all like tied up to a chair, and like sort of like gagged and everything, and he couldn't speak.
yeah, and then my notes get a bit fuzzy here, but somehow we end up in contact with not Krill. That's someone completely different. We end up in contact with the guy who's been blamed for the murder mysteries.
Yeah,
Is his name? I can't
Yeah,
remember
Scar.
what he was called.
Scar.
Scar, that's the one.
Yeah.
We end up
Yeah,
in contact with
so-
Scar. I believe Boban was tied to that in some way, shape, or form.
yes. Let me go back to my notes because I can tell you exactly.
I think he got in like either in trouble with them, or we basically mentioned, and he was like, "I know a person." In short, we end up back in contact with Scar and his sort of like crew of criminals in air quotes, and he basically says, "Yeah, he's been framed for the murders. He wouldn't do such a thing." Which sort of led us on to okay, well, if you're not doing them, who is? Which I think at this point we were starting to get curious about these families
Mhm.
running the city. I mean, we knew from London they were corrupt as fuck, but we didn't realize to the extent how corrupt they were.
Yeah.
So we got our heist team together. We got Scar, his boys. We got Dante. We've got us. Plan was blow open the side of the wall with a disintegrate spell, and just go ham and just get in there, get Yelvin, get out, get Landon's family, and we're gonna teleport everyone to the Dragon Sanctum. I believe was the play. I think, yeah. So, before we did that, this is what I was going to sort of mention is I think we had a long conversation with Samuel about who the Black Hand really were. So I kind of want to devote a section to this just to sort of talk about what we know so far of what the Black Hand actually is.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation with Samuel. We find out Samuel is actually an ex-member of the Black Hand. And Samuel begins to describe what the structure is. And when this was first sort of described to me, I was like, this is actually, like, it makes sense. It's so obvious and it makes sense, but it's such a cool concept. But the Black Hand structure is, it's a hand, basically. So you have a thumb, an index, a middle, a ring, and a pinky, and they've all got different sort of role
They have different
structures
Yeah.
within the Black Hand. So, if I'm right in saying, the pinky was Samuel,
Yep.
but he sort of left. Samuel has been replaced, but he doesn't know by who. Middle finger is a guy called Krill. Now, Krill currently is a twat and is doing my heading.
The biggest pain in our ass right now.
Basically,
Yeah.
he is the middle finger. Krill is the one who helped Samuel actually leave the Black Hand. However, He is a shapeshifter and can shapeshift without detection by magical means, which is very annoying because he can impersonate people often. And this is where our eyes sort of opened as to Yelvin. Under mind control, possibly. Don't know. Or was he ferried away, captured by the Black Hand, and then impersonated, and the Queen was killed by Krill? That is our assumption thus far. It's not been confirmed, but it's our most plausible theory. Krill, annoying. Don't even know what he looks like because he changes form all the time. He is the middle finger. Index finger, we have Helviena. Helviena is, in my notes, I've got here worst under Zvim. So Zvim is our BBEG, we presume.
Yes.
Or the big bad evil guy. For people new to D&D. Helviena's second in command, basically. She is like the one underneath. She's an elf, and I've got here possibly immortal by some shape or form. Somehow. She is supposedly the daughter to the body Zvim is currently inhabiting. That's all I've got in my notes for Helviena, but we've slowly learnt throughout this campaign that Helviena becoming like she is the ruler of Isilnur at this, and we're planning to go down in the near future. That is our next sort of big adventure.
Yeah.
We then have the big boy. We have Zvim. Not a lot is known about Zvim, other than he is the son of Bane. So he's a somewhat demigod / lesser god, and he is trying to take the role of his father of being a tyrannical, evil god by killing him. So he is currently half possessed in a body, kind of like a lich, sort of dealio. But he is inhabiting a body of a very well-known paladin in history called Alakast, who is supposedly dead and has links to the Elder Council. That is literally all we know about Zvim, and he controls the Black Hand. That is literally it. But there is just this overlying presence.
Part of him as well.
Yeah.
And then with daddy issues.
Yeah. Basically. And then good old Thumb is Voriak.
Yeah, Voriak, yeah.
And Voriak has also been a pain on our side since the early arcs. Voriak's the tank, the big boy of the Black Hand. He has an interesting ability where he isn't necessarily a individual being per se. He is made up of an amalgamation of worms which take over hosts, and then Voriak can then control that host as himself using his powers, and that kind of very scary because it kind of makes him like very hard to kill. We still don't know how we're going to do that, so that's a bridge to cross. But he's big, he's scary, he has a lot of strength. Probably a Rob issue, but you know,
A Rob issue.
that's a Rob problem, it sounds like to me. But that is the Black Hand. That is their structure.
Yeah.
That is what we know so far. They are our sort of end game big evil group that is sort of plaguing this continent that we're sort of trying to get rid of. Yeah, their goal is to get the Stone of Convergence, and I believe it's to revert it back to how it was before the Convergence, I think is their goal, or just use the Stone of Convergence to just wipe out everything. Probably. We don't know.
They're using it for some reason, but you don't know why.
Who knows? They're going to use it for something bad, presumably. Yeah, that's the Black Hand. And I believe Samuel finishes up telling us all that. And we're like, shit, stuff just got real. Let's go bust Yelvin out of prison.
Yeah.
We do that. prison heist goes down smoothly. We end up busting him out, teleporting back to the Dragon Sanctum, not before telling Dante, who is now becoming involved in a rebellion of some sorts, using his swindling powers of charisma. They don't go away when he relinquishes his pact. So he's going to use it for rebellion and start his good old Les Miserables arc in Borussia to overthrow the families and to get rid of a corrupt government in the background while the campaign is going on. And I believe we end up TPing back to the Dragon Sanctum, ending that arc.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I love how our reaction to finding out all this information about our main enemies, and they were like, "Oh no!" Anyway,
Yeah.
let's do Prison Break.
Yeah. Anyway, we should probably bust out this guy.
Yeah.
Probably an
Yeah.
issue.
It was. I think it was in the next arc that you guys sort of then discussed what you knew, and sort of like
Yeah,
pieced
I think it
together
was-
bits in the next arc,
Yeah.
and then sort of like,
Yeah.
oh, this is bad. Like this is bad.
Yeah. We kind of got our action plan together in the next arc.
Yeah, you
But-
did.
Before we move on to that, any favourite moments? This was a big arc. A lot happened.
Yeah, a lot
Anything
happened.
stand out for you guys?
I myself as the DM, I like this arc. I'm probably going to say this for most of the arcs, so it's going to be one of my favorites, but it is one of my favorites only because it was such a different leap for sort of my take on story, because not only I gave you sort of in the previous times is I gave you these like inklings to the Black Hand, I guess.
Mhm.
But within this story, I gave almost that there was this sort of false sense of like, you know, everything was kind of normal. You guys were doing this whole task of trying to save Landon's mother and sort of going off and fighting the purple worm. But then actually towards the end of the arc, you guys then realize that there's something that's happening that's in the whole entire background this whole time. And it's sort of making you realize that, oh, this is happening. This is
Yeah, we should
crazy.
probably sort out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like this arc so much, because it has that sort of foothold to where
Mhm.
it's where it was kind of not where it's all started, but where you guys first initially find out about all of this crap that's going on. All
Yeah,
of this Black
Because
Hand here.
the previous arcs were very much like, oh, there's this Stoic Virgins, what's that? There's
Yeah.
these vampires, what are they? There's this person named Helviana, who's that? And then all the way through this arc, sort of a lot of our unanswered questions got answered with answers that we didn't particularly want to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
i.e.
exactly.
everything is
Yeah.
going to blow up very soon. You should probably
Yeah,
sort it
yeah.
out. So
Yeah,
that sort of tied us back into the main story, and I think it sort of gave us a heading of what we kind of needed to do next.
hmm
Right.
Obviously, from Kelly's point of view, I think as a player, my favorite moment was obviously the 2 weeks Kelly spent away, sort of doing those one-to-one sessions. It was a different pace. It was sort of like more personal and sort of interconnected with certain characters, and you know, the losing of family was a lot of sort of emotional sort of scenes played out in there. But also getting to play Dante as well. That was fun. That was a different way. I got to role play a completely different character who wasn't stubborn, who wasn't an arsehole. Didn't, you know, got on with people instead of tried to hide away. That sort of that sort of side. But it was nice. It was a different pace. So
It was
I
really
enjoyed
fun.
playing. I enjoyed playing London. I've never played London.
Wow.
I enjoyed playing Dante. I enjoyed playing Dante. I think Gore, our lovely friend, that moment
Oh,
is gonna stay.
Yeah,
That's probably one of my favorite moments
I
in
love
terms
how
of
a little kobold from the very beginning of this arc has evolved
Yeah.
into a hopefully mainstay NPC eventually.
Dude, he better come back ripped.
Has
Like
come back.
he's gone through like training, and he's gonna be buff as fuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens with that. Or he's couldn't carry the sword and he's died of malnourishment in the middle of the desert. You never know.
That's also a possibility.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Either way,
Yeah.
I suppose you'll find out eventually.
I guess we'll have to find out. But
Thinking about it, this arc was really fun.
I did enjoy this arc.
I feel like my favorite section of it was definitely the hunting for the purple worm.
That
And
was
just
fun.
going out and exploring, and then just finding
Yeah.
the small town, finding the kobolds, talking with them, and telling them, "Hey, help us out on this." And then
Yeah,
going out, finding that small cave, that abandoned mining shaft, and then we
Oh yeah,
discovered
we had
it's
that abandoned
overrun
mining
by
shaft.
spiders.
Yeah.
Oh, the mine shaft. I forgot about that. We're also missing a
Yeah.
very big part of this arc as well, in terms of
Yeah.
our third player. Yeah. When
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
came back, I gave you guys all of the loot that we had in my bag of holding, and you
did.
guys sold it all and had your own little share. To which Rob is now donning his current armor / outfit.
Yeah.
Attire.
Rob,
Yeah, it's a tire.
from the amount that we sold, we ended up getting about, I think it was about 20k each in gold.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's a lot of gold.
Quite a lot of
However,
gold,
Rob already had a pretty good weapon, doesn't wear armor because he's a barbarian, and doesn't really need anything. Happiness. He is a minotaur. He is very simple.
Yeah.
He is happy to
Yeah.
just kill things and roam around with us. He ended up spending that 20,000 on an absolute dapper suit, which
Yeah.
he still wears now. Is probably a little bit tattered from where he wears it in combat.
Probably.
But I'm pretty sure
Probably.
he got it fitted to make it sure that it would, survive such ordeals. And I'm pretty sure he got a platinum pocket watch as well, or something.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
like-
he's got a pocket.
Either
watch,
way-
yeah. He looks dapper,
Rob's
and he's a
not-
minotaur wearing
Right.
a suit and a top hat.
Rob
It's
got
brilliant.
Fuck out.
Yeah.
He is a
yeah.
dapper boy.
He was cool as fuck, and he was like, "Do you know what? I'm just spending 20k on a suit. You know what? Just for RP." And I can
Yeah.
appreciate that. I can
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Kello in the back of his mind was like, "That's gold. Hoard it or spend it on something useful or something cool." But as a player, I was like, "Fuck yeah, hell yeah, dude! Spend it on
Yeah.
a suit.
Spend it.
Go look
Yeah.
sick as fuck."
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
believe that's our arc.
Yeah, I believe that is that arc.
That arc.